stress about it too much. Sup, everybody? This is Carrick with ACG, and I'm here with Johnny and Silver doing the Best Gaming Podcast number 483. We're just testing out a different channel, a test channel. Most likely it'll be this channel going forward. We're just trying to get things sort of situated as we move the podcast over. So if you guys get a chance, I would like for you to tweet it or like the video. Or, well, I hope you always like the video, but hit the like button, tweet it, tell other people, what have you. It's always a good place to be on your Fridays. Well, at least I hope it is. Speaking of Fridays, anybody do anything amazing this weekend? Like, is anything, any amazing things happen this weekend? It can't be normal. Like, it's got to be.
I've been on holiday, so I've been doing a bunch of stuff with my my mom and dad. So yeah, we're gonna go to a pizzeria.
Oh,
over the weekend. I'm trying to see if I can go watch Deadpool as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That'd be very cool.
Now we went to a park. You know, it's been really nice weather and stuff, so it's been good.
Yeah, it's been too hot here. I don't know about you guys, but it's way too hot here. I'm not going to go out to a park right now. Yeah. And I don't mind heat. I don't mind like going and working out or anything like that in the heat, but just sitting in it. We were talking in voice chat. Luckily, I don't have an issue tanning or burning too much, but my family does. You go out for like longer than 45 minutes and everybody looks like a lobster. Shrimp on the bobby. What about you, Silver? Anything cool planned for this weekend?
Rest.
Primarily. Well, technically, rest is actually pretty cool. Yeah. Well, for us, let's see. I'm probably going to Deadpool again. That'll be a fourth time. But I got friends who want to go. Yeah, friends who want to go. It's not like I'm waking up every morning going, man, can't wait to go to Deadpool again. But it's just multiple people at different places want to go and stuff like that.
You tagging along. Yeah.
Well, me tagging along or them for whatever reason wanting me to go in particular, even though I haven't told them I've seen it. Maybe they're just reaching out because they know I liked the original too, I guess. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. But, and then next week, there's some coverage for, I'm trying to think if I can, they're just normal games, so I'm sure I can cover, I'll be covering Deathbound, which is a 4-player. I don't know if you guys saw this one. It's like a Dark Souls 4-player, or not 4-player. I say that every time. 4-party member Dark Souls, where you can switch between the party members instantly. So instead of like a class like your archer or your warrior, you have these spirits, and then you find the spirits, and then you switch out to them during battle. So you can switch from a warrior to an assassin style character during actual live gameplay. And I'll be covering that. I think that's middle of the week, next week. And then right now we're just having our roof replaced, which not only is expensive, but I realized just how stressed out, like after 3 days of a guy right here, just boom, boom. Right. I was in voice chat yesterday going like, guys, I got to go. I'm just like, this is too much sound. It's just too much. And then it was hot on top of that, but it's nice to get that repaired so we don't have to worry about it leaking. That's the difference between owning owning a house and renting.
Yeah.
If you rent, you're like landlord, 3 a.m., fix my water heater, biatch. Yeah. And then when it's you, you're all, who am I calling?
$10,000.
It's just
to
me.
fix the roof.
$10,000. What the hell? Yeah. How bad are the wildfires, Carrick? They're really bad, actually. They've stopped me from doing some work, not because of me, them being nearby or anything, but because construction crews and companies that do work on houses and stuff are switching. They're moving some jobs earlier so they can go help, or they're doing some jobs later. It's just sort of a mess over here. It was a mess last year. It's a mess this year. I think it's going to be a mess every single year. What's up, Rogerio? Hello. Praise the sun.
Perhaps,
agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. So the first thing I want to talk about is Bungie. I mean, do you guys read any of this?
The layoffs.
Yeah, the layoffs. And then, there's rumors that they're just sort of being, at least in the long term, there's, more of just a first party studio for Sony and stuff like that. And I think this is something we talked about like 2 years ago. And then again, when Sony sort of admonished them openly, when Sony's CEO was like, we're disappointed in how Bungie and has worked with other studios and stuff like that. So they laid off a bunch of people this last week. They also shifted a good number of people as well. Those are separate from the layoffs. Shipped a number of people over to Sony as well. And now we're hearing this morning that, so the Destiny 3 thing's always been really confusing for pretty much everybody. What's Destiny 3? What's Destiny 2? What's like what exactly are all these things? Is it Destiny 2 just going to continue living forward forever and they're never going to make 3?
Marathon as well, right?
Yeah, and then maybe, right? Like that's the thing. They're a shell of what they were. I mean, they've lost a huge number of staff. And it's made me wonder,
right?
Yeah, 70, but on this one layoff was 17. And then you add in the 150 leaving, which is completely separate from the layoff, that are going to work for Sony. And so it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know where they're going.
Probably
above
goes up to
1,000.
25% maybe.
They did in the past, yeah.
Like 2025.
Yeah. And so now we're looking at like what exactly are they, Are they a first party studio? We used to joke about, I remember when we first started this podcast, we used to call it 2.5, a 2.5 party studio, because there was always these differences. Second party is a real thing, but it's rare. But yeah, I don't know, man. It does suck, but we haven't heard anything about Division 3. Division 2, so I don't know if you guys played it. The Division 2's newest DLC did very good. Very good. But it didn't, supposedly didn't,
Wait.
Destiny.
Yeah.
But supposedly it didn't sell well. And so if it didn't sell well, what are they going to do? Are they going to, it's like, are they going to move to Destiny 3? And I don't think they are. I think we're just going to see them petering away at Destiny 2 forever.
So they now have like 300 people less overall when you compare to
in just this one series of layoffs, but when you compare it to whatever.
And they got under their belt, or like current projects, they got Marathon, which we know is supposed to be like a AAA PvP, shooter. Right?
Yeah.
And then Destiny, whatever they want to do with that. And I think didn't they also say they were working on another AAA, like original
with
IP?
Sony?
I could be wrong.
With Sony, supposedly there is another sci-fi action game that is not Destiny.
Yeah.
That's being built.
So it kind of begs the question, did they shift that by also changing people from,
right,
to Sony? Maybe that's how they're rejiggering it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about you guys. I'm not happy with Destiny 2, but I would love to see a Destiny 3 where, they onboarded people and people who are newer could come on and play. So I was actually excited for the idea of them sort of just saying, we're moving forward. We're going to go ahead and put everything together, and we're going to try to bring everybody together, bring the, the oldsters who've been playing Destiny 2 for the last whatever years, and then have Destiny 3 be a thing. But I mean, I might be the only one here who plays Destiny. I don't play it a bunch, but I played it for sure with this last expansion, 1 or 2 expansions prior. Good shooting. Definitely worthwhile as a base. I would love to see them build. And Marathon didn't do so well in supposedly one of the tests. Now, Marathon's always confused me too, guys. Like, it's just a name. You know what I mean? It's sort of, like, what does it mean?
You mean from
it's
the
just
prior
the name
game,
and the label,
from the older?
Shooter.
Yeah. It's like it's very difficult to even know how that plays out as a title. What's it going to be?
These days, that label hero shooter has a very ominous connotation, given hyenas and everything else.
And Concord.
Concord.
Yeah, Concord as well.
For sure.
Exactly.
I mean, if we took a guess, is there anything Killzone? If they somehow got the IP from Sony or whoever owns it now, I would like to see a new Killzone anyway. Maybe Guerrillas too, because I think Guerrillas is still busy with your Horizon Zero Dawns. Maybe if they took the IP for that. But I think people, if that happened, the fans of Killzone would complain, because they'd be like, they killed or not kill Destiny, but look at Destiny. And then you have, what's the other one from them? Killzone and Resistance, right? Those are there's 2 separate. I think that's right. Older Sony titles.
I
But
don't remember if they were the
were
same
they
studio behind both
were they?
properties.
Yeah, I don't remember if they were the same behind both. But it's like, is that what they're trying to do? Is get Bungie to jump over and make a first-person shooter that Sony can sort of say is ours? Because especially Microsoft isn't really super strong in the first-person shooter. Halo didn't really, set the world on fire.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
and speaking of not setting the world on fire, the PvP stuff they tried with Destiny never really popped off either, right? I think it was kind of a.
It popped off internally.
Did it?
With fans, but it didn't pop off as like it didn't become an esports thing or anything. No. But it was very popular. I mean, well, it's hard to know. I don't know the exact numbers, but I mean, you definitely. I know a lot of people only really played that game just for the PvP and certain weapons and stuff like that throughout the years. I don't know if that continued with each patch or anything. You know how it is with a patch.
Yeah.
Where everything's working fine and then a patch comes and they're like, "You nerfed my gun. How dare you?" That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, big changes for Bungie. Like, it's weird to think of how far Bungie has come from Halo, Microsoft, Activision, and now Sony.
Yeah.
And always seems to have little issues.
Fact that many people was like 17%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which is a full developer wise of people.
Or
several. Yeah, hopefully they all land on their feet. You guys don't have any plan to go to anybody in chat either? You don't have any plans to go to Destiny 2 at any point or anything like that, right? You guys don't really gel with the old Destiny vibe, do you?
No, I don't think so. It's also hard to get into now, right? As a brand new player.
It is very
so much stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the enticing premise of a Destiny 3. It's like, okay, it's fresh. It's easy to jump into. It's something you can now. It's not that you missed the train. You're now at the station and the train is leaving, type of thing.
It reminds me of the Tom Hanks movie where he's doing all the puzzles, and that's how you get it. To get the title to turn on, you have to do like a cipher. There's just so much stuff you have to parse everything.
It's just the menus and everything.
Yeah. It's like, all right, man, we got to get Tom Hanks in here to help us. I'm disappointed with Marathon being a PvP shooter. I was really enjoying the story of the Marathon games, or I really enjoyed them. This is Rogério. Big Mac says Resistance was Insomniac. Right, yeah. Rogério, I wonder if Bungie still owns Myth. Yes, I believe they'd still do. We just talked about this a couple days ago in the thing we were talking about old RTSs for a mood ski, and I'm almost sure they do. And then JK, Big Mac again says, I played Destiny 2 at launch, but I played it as a single-player game and didn't see the appeal. Man, I sort of liked it as a single-player. I get it, though. I get it. I liked it as a single-player game, but I get where you're coming from, for sure. But moving on from there, that's Bungie in a nutshell. It's been contentious for Bungie. They are definitely one of those, they're like a rock band. Highs, lows. There's going to be a VH1 documentary called, Behind the Bungie instead of Behind the Music. I mean, there's always something that goes on with that company. And yeah, it's been incredible. The other thing that is incredible is Fallout London. I want to shout it out one more time. Fallout London is a mod that came out for Fallout 4 last week. Is that right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, the weeks pass by fast. Yeah, it's got some. Unfortunately, it's got some crashes, it's got some bugs, but overall, really enjoyable. I saw some people streaming it this last weekend and this last week in our chat, and they seem to actually really think it is its own mini game. They haven't beat it, so that you can't say it's a full game, but they have got through that, initial bugged out. Moments where you're trying to figure out what's wrong with the game. And overall, I think they've been very happy with what they've been able to play. So if you get a chance, check out Fallout London. It's all on GOG right now due to a size issue and stuff like that. I think it was too big for File Nexus or something. I can't remember the exact reasons. But regardless, you can get it. And there's a little bit of work you have to do to get it technically running. But if you're a Fallout fan, it seems to be for you.
Yeah, and I saw a couple things that one, if you have it on Steam, you can put it on GOG and get it either way. So, if you happen to own it in Steam. So that was one thing. The other thing, I was looking at people play it as well. Mm-hmm. And it's, it's a full location, right?
Yeah.
It's from the ground up. pretty
Yeah.
much. It's not like, I
pretty much-
wasn't aware of, like, I know they said it was massive, but it's another thing is to see it for real.
It's pretty much a blend of like a total conversion and like a mod expansion. In a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, I would
think.
agree with that. It is massive when it comes to how much they put into it. It looks like they've actually done a good job with what they've got. We'll just have to see overall how it ends up coming together. But everybody I've
Similar
talked to has
something
really
like
enjoyed it.
Black Mesa, maybe
Yeah, and certainly
in some ways.
maybe a Shivering Isles in a way. That might be overstepping my bounds until we
Right.
get some more people playing it. But in the fact that it is a whole big new thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll just have to see. William Riggs says, morning, everybody. He says, happy to see things are getting pushed to 25. It gives me hope that we will get completed games. Yeah, I think we can jump to that. So there's rumors Avowed is getting delayed. We talked about this earlier. They've shown some trailers, but the leak of their date was on a trailer that then they deleted. And this is a month or so ago, where there was a trailer that had been uploaded with a date, and then that got deleted right away, which then brought up the question, why not just say, hey, that is the date, surprise? But instead, there was some subterfuge there, and so in the last couple of weeks, we've all been talking about, where exactly that might lay. And then it came out there is a chance that they're going to delay it till 25, which I think is pretty sound when you look at the fact that Microsoft is already trying to verify, and so are the companies, different companies trying to verify your September, October, November, December timeframes. And Avowed doesn't have a lot of PR right now. Game Pass will come up, Gamescom, which is going on. You'll be able to see, if people got to play it then. But Avowed just doesn't have the oomph. I don't know if you guys. It feels like even when we talk about it,
It doesn't at the moment. No.
Yeah, we're just.
Yeah.
Sort of stuck just trying to figure
I
out
think it's
exactly
kind
what it
of
is.
That- It
registering
could also
at the,
ramp up. Like
it could.
if they do like set a date and then start ramping up the marketing leading up to that could ramp up.
Yeah, it definitely could. It definitely could.
Yeah, I think it's registering at the Eurojank type level right now, kind of like
Yeah.
Right,
little
like
bit.
Gothic or something. Right.
yeah.
And I can't remember Outer Worlds either. I can't remember. I know there was some PR for it in space, and it was pre-Starfield, so people were excited for that. You know what I mean? Like it was like, here's a space
It was
game.
also like kind of Obsidian doing a Fallout style game again. Hooray, hooray. That was a lot of the excitement that I saw before.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny how the Obsidian hype seemed higher for Outer Worlds than it is for Avowed. At least in my,
I think it's because
perception.
Fallout. I think part of it was the Fallout sort of legacy,
The connection.
where people don't necessarily have the same connection to the world in Pillars of Eternity.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I firmly
Yeah,
agree with that.
Investment there.
Yeah, I just feel like people who like Pillars will talk about the world and all that stuff. People who like Pillars, who like the world, like myself, I'm not as interested in those locations as other people. I'm still more interested in the mechanics and is the game fun than the world exploration, all that kind of thing.
Right.
So to me, the trailers haven't appealed to me yet to where I can look and I think with all these trailers, well, it's just like a movie trailer. We see it all the time. There's too many stingers. There's too many spoilers. And weirdly enough, with Avowed, I feel like there's not enough anything. Like we don't have anything for that one yet. Go ahead.
I'm also not sure who's actually the project lead on Avowed.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I mean, Outer Worlds, you had Tim Kaine, right, in front of heading that, which also
lends a little bit of excitement.
Yeah,
exactly. That's fair. That's fair.
And especially relating back to the Fallout thing.
I thought Johnny was asking us to give him 5 seconds, and then I realized
my camera was
your camera
trolling me with the
auto lens. Your camera's like, no face found. You're like, damn it, man, my face is right here. No face found. Cantankerous Goat says, I've tried, but I cannot get into the Pillars game or games.
I tried too. But where do you guys lie with Pillars? I know, Carrick, you've played.
I loved
a
one.
bunch of Pillars.
And 2 hit me a little dry, but 1
little dry.
I liked 1. What about you, Silver?
And it's all the same world, by the way, right? Just between 1 and 2. It's
Go ahead, Silver. Did you do either one of them?
Yeah, I mean, I kickstarted the first one significantly.
Ooh, I forgot about Kickstarter.
So I was there from day one, playing it, and I loved it. Like it was everything I wanted it to be, really. The only
And
thing
you're a big fan of the world and stuff from it?
I wouldn't say big fan. It worked for me.
Okay.
Like I didn't find it anything particularly inspirational or brilliant about it, but I found it solid enough. But really, what got me was interested in it and engaged me in it wasn't so much the story or the lore. It was like much like character describes the gameplay mechanics and the actual systems. I mean, the fact that you had the freedom to basically customize and make builds the way you want it. You weren't necessarily restricted to having to go into strength as a fighter or intelligence as a mage or whatever. You could make things work. That was something I really appreciated about the system they built for the original Pillars. I still haven't played Pillars 2. It's part of my guilty backlog, along with Life is Strange, that I really do want to get to at some point, but just never really find the opportunity to.
I mean, those games are just a certain 2.5 isometric kind of thing. It's just a certain tact, you know. It doesn't hit as good as third person, not as good. Doesn't hit as easily when it comes to the delivery of like the feeling of being in the world, I don't think.
I think for a lot of people I think that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think with Avowed makes sense. Delay it, you know, figure out where you have a spot, October, November, make sure, you know, you get it out before GTA. Right? Like,
yeah,
that would be a disaster beyond all belief. Hopefully GTA doesn't move their podcast or move their game release early. That would be amazing.
Everyone needs to stay the fuck away from the GTA release.
GTA's release is like a driving moment in GTA where everybody's just trying to get out of the way as you're all, whoa. That's something that it doesn't matter that there's not an overlap between a fantasy game and that. You don't even know if GTA 6 has a damned fantasy game in it as an MMO you play as a character.
No, yeah.
I mean, that would not, you know, some stupid thing like that would not surprise me. It may not look amazing, but it would still be in there just because they're like, let's go for it. You know, so.
Chances are it will probably look amazing.
Well, chances are it would actually look good and be better than some of the ones we've had to purchase in the last couple years, right? Let's see.
I mean, the golf minigames and the tennis minigames.
Oh yeah, tennis was great. I really thought that was good.
Were solid.
Oh yeah, they were awesome. And the biking, even though the biking's more of a travel mechanism,
that was okay.
It was just worked. Able to go up in the woods and stuff.
To be fair, like compared to biking in so many other games, even biking games. Yes.
Baseball Gear says, with Game Informer officially shutting down today, do you have a favorite memory of physical media, like getting a magazine in the mail or buying one?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't do Game Informer. We did Next Generation magazine, and I remember walking out to the mailbox and the smell of like rain on pavement because I had to cross a road, and always being super, super excited for getting a Next Generation magazine because at the time they were the highest. You know, their quality, the way they did their font and their front. If you go look at them, you'll see sort of why I probably like them because it just fits my style. I was a big fan of that. Did you guys do National Enquirer? Your parents do National Enquirer?
No.
Did they do? What are some of the old Time? Any of those magazines? Well, Time is Time. Time's worldwide, right?
Yes,
yeah, Time's worldwide.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys could have done Time. Yeah, those were awesome.
I don't know if I had any of those growing up, but I certainly remember getting things like, you know, those PC magazines that come with the CD, right? And maybe they had demos or things. I loved just getting the CD and like trying something cool and exciting because you couldn't get, like, this was in the 90s, so you couldn't get a lot of times games like you can now on Steam. You know, it wasn't like that. So to get a demo for a fresh new game was really cool.
Does anybody know if Game Informer shut down digitally too? Is it still going to be a website? Because that's the only I kept seeing all the shutdown of the magazine, and saying shut down to me means shut down.
Yeah, everything shut down.
Everything shut down. But at the same time, since they have a successful website and writers and, staff, I was like, are they, gonna at least have a web presence of some kind? Okay. Yeah. Somebody can pop off that in the chat, but
I used to read a lot of magazines though, both like gaming related and also Science Illustrated, National Geographic, like magazines like that as well. But yeah, I mean, the big thing back in the day was the gaming magazines for the shareware, CD-ROMs and the patches that you needed, because if you had games that were wonky or something at release, you needed the CD-ROM that came with gaming magazines.
Basically told you how to patch it or had it on there. Yeah, that was great. People said the website is gone, so it says farewell on the website. So there you go. Yeah, it's too bad. usgamer.net, Michael's been on a couple times. He was on a website, a bunch of coverage. This was prior to what we're seeing now, the contraction of the business of what we're seeing now. usgamer.net was well earlier when it closed, but we're definitely seeing this. We're definitely seeing just the contraction of everything, and overall the web, the way the ads are going, and then you have the web blockers on YouTube. I know people were complaining because now they've figured out a way to like screw up some ad blockers and cause like 30 seconds of silence or 30 seconds of just a black screen instead of letting you skip it, all kinds of stuff, So there's a constant battle between that, which is probably what they lost. I feel like Game Informer had really good website articles and really good magazine, if you got that. But what I have been noticing lately is if you haven't made it big on YouTube, if you're not a drama or a talking head or something like that, it is very hard. You'll get these writers, you'll get Game Informer with 10, 15, 20 writers, GameSpot, even IGN, I've noticed on their views, you get a very small number of views, and that used to be money in the bank. It used to pay for itself. But if you're seeing somebody spend 80 hours on a game and they're getting 3,000 views, and they're from a major website, one thing you got to look at is how are they not translating the website people to the YouTube people? How are you not getting those people to jump over? And I think we all know some people like to read it and not watch it, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's sad to see them go, man. They've been around forever. Let's see. Cantankerous Goat says the Sega Saturn magazine to get Christmas Nights. That's how I got Christmas Nights as well. Loved Christmas Nights.
A Danish version of the Nintendo Power magazine as well. I think that was actually I think Nintendo magazines were like the first gaming magazine I ever got and read.
Oh, interesting.
Consistently.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Abbreviated Review says it's really surprising how low the views are on some of the big outlets video side. Yeah, it's been, especially as we're doing this and we're moving the channel and looking at how things work. Like there's sort of a very specific way to start a channel now, but there is a very difficult road to ride if you are a website and already have a channel and it's not doing well, because I think it's really hard to reset that for those guys, because a lot of people would just go, I don't like their video. I'm not going to click on their video. Doesn't matter if they change thumbnails. Doesn't matter how good their insights are. Because by the way, Game Informer in the last 2 years has had a number of exclusives on early games, and they're still, and it still didn't work out, which is really sad, man. It goes to show that, well, it's one of the reasons why I'm really happy we don't have that. I mean, it would be great, but I don't have to worry about if you lose it, because it's just like you're never going to end up, getting it. You're not going to end up being bloated with those numbers. And maybe that's why they lasted this long. Who knows? Maybe they lasted longer because, only in the last couple years have they got those exclusives. In the past, they were just doing their magazine. I know one person there now. The other one left, and really did seem to genuinely like doing it. Really liked liked everybody who worked there and stuff, which is always good to hear, because I feel like a lot of times. It's funny
because I know a few people who still do the physical magazine subscriptions, for different magazines. And I definitely think there's something to the physical format. I personally I would much rather sit and read a magazine, well printed, looks great, and the colors and everything, rather than look at something on my screen.
Interesting.
There's something about it. Yeah.
Really?
I mean,
I think there's something compelling about the format.
There is. I mean, I had newspaper subscriptions for a long time.
Okay.
Like
yeah.
for
Dude, I
quite a few
haven't read
years,
a newspaper in 20 years,
for
man.
quite a few years, I subscribed to a newspaper that used to be called the International Herald Tribune. Which the great thing about that newspaper was that it basically had correspondents all over the world, but the correspondents were locals. So you had perspective coming from a local from like Afghanistan or
whatever. That'd be cool.
That was really unique, rather than like a foreign correspondent who was embedded there. So that was really cool. And I think it basically ran as a collaboration between the New York Times and the New Washington Post, and then eventually it just became sort of consolidated and absorbed into the New York Times, and it basically became like the International New York Times, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't do newspapers or anything like that. We didn't have any physical media other than junk mail for the most part, and a couple game magazines. That was it. And then I couldn't afford them anymore. But I also remember the old prices of video game magazines, and they weren't bad. They weren't bad, man. It was like $24.99 for 12 months or something like that. It was some ridiculous low price.
Like if you buy it at the kiosk.
Yeah.
Not bad, man.
Right, if you get a deal. Let's see. Let's move on from there. Hopefully everybody there lands on their feet.
Curiosity.
And then... Oh, okay.
Just before we move on, I had a quick curiosity. Did you guys have growing up those magazines that came with a piece of something? So at the end, you would be able to assemble, maybe it's a boat, maybe it's a ship or a helicopter thingy, and you get like each week you would get a magazine with one piece of it. So like one week you might get the wheels, the next one you would get, and it would be just like piece by piece, week by week. That's my biggest memory of like getting physical magazines.
Not only
was that a thing for you?
Never even heard of it.
Wow.
Yeah. So
no, not on a month by month or week to week basis like that.
Okay.
Like we did have, I think the closest we got was probably like the most popular like magazine, comic book or whatever here was Donald Duck, like Disney comic, which was weekly, published weekly. And like every now and again they would have some kind of paraphernalia along with the comics, and maybe like a toy airplane, like paper airplane or whatever it would be, like cardboard airplane or whatever, but not something that you had to like assemble over multiple weeks.
Yeah, it was the most flawed model I've ever seen, because if you missed 1 week, you wouldn't have the wheels, or you wouldn't.
Or what if you signed on early in 1 year and you have half a boat and half a car? I mean, that's a transformer. So technically, that might be the best day of your life, but it would be really weird to get a wheel and then a keel. Yeah.
You had to go to the kiosk week on week. Anyway, we can move on.
Moving on from there, Thiz Viper says, what's a game this year that you really enjoy playing but didn't get the best reviews? Mine is Skull and Bones. I'm actually having a great time pirating and destroying people's ships and stealing their stuff. You're not the only one who has mentioned that there is an undercurrent of something that is at least more than the sum of its parts when it comes to Skull and Bones. I don't know how things review for the most part. I'm trying to think like something that's reviewed poorly this year. We're in July, so what do we have early? I might have to look. Any games you guys can think of that might have popped up that
nothing comes to mind.
I mean, I
reviewed poorly that I enjoyed. Like pretty much everything I've enjoyed has reviewed well.
That's a good year.
Really well.
That's a good year, though.
Yeah,
right.
That's really
awesome.
Solid.
That's awesome if that happens.
I know that that game you reviewed, Carrick, Flint. What's it called? Flint.
What?
Flintlock.
Flintlock. Yeah.
What about it?
Yeah. That one. Some people I heard had a good time with it, but then it didn't do very well in reviews.
Right, but he's asking you guys for your own. Do you have an example of your own? Go ahead,
that's
John.
From
go ahead.
Last year. Payday 3 did not review well.
And you're
for very, very understandable reasons that I agree with.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it all the same. Like, I don't play it anymore. at this time, I may return to it in the future. But like on a mechanical level, I enjoyed the game for what it was.
Yeah.
When it released.
Actually, Suicide Squad is one that I had a good time for, 20 hours. That's a good.
Yeah, I would say Suicide Squad was that this year?
Yeah, I think so.
Sorry,
yeah.
shit's running together.
I know, dude, it's great.
So Suicide Squad would definitely. So since I haven't completed it, but I would definitely say that the scores for that, a little bit like Gotham Knights, reflected a game that, depending on where you are, was either irreparably broken or just not fun. I found it not irreparably broken and sometimes fun. It wasn't like it was just one of those games you could jump into, hang out with somebody, play a little bit, see a couple things go on, a storyline here or there. Maybe you were also, you know how sometimes you watch a horror movie or a newscast because you're sort of intrinsically curious about the disaster you're watching. I felt that way at times about Suicide Squad, where I was just playing it and I would see something pop up in a cutscene and be like, you know what? I don't know where this is going, but I'm going to go ahead and sit back and watch some of this. So yeah, Suicide Squad, I definitely had parts of enjoyment. Not a lot, but parts. Abbreviated Reviews says Helldivers 2 got review bombed, but I still enjoy it. Yeah, we weren't even talking about review bombs because that right now is a disaster. The review bomb thing, it's just not even, it no longer even connects.
Initially reviewed really, really well.
It did, and that's
on the merits of the game itself, as it were.
Yep, it was like boom, boom, and now it's probably. I haven't looked at reviews on that one in a while. I think that's a very solid game, regardless of any review I see. Yeah, Helldivers, I mean, it's like, all right, we know that one's solid. But yeah, good question. Sorry we don't always have an answer to these, but I don't like to look through YouTube and really dive into stuff while we're in the middle of a voice chat. But off the top of my head, I would say Suicide Squad, like Johnny, was a good example. I am John Galt, who is a YouTube subscriber. Thank you very much for being so as well. He says, what's the most disappointing canceled project in gaming? For me, it was Scalebound.
There's a bunch.
There's
1313 is up there for a lot of people.
1313 is really high. Yeah. That's a good example.
From LucasArts.
But didn't 13 get a remake?
No, that's Bounty Hunter.
Yes.
We're talking about 13. We're talking about 13.
That was a completely different game.
Yeah, it's a Star Wars game.
13 was the Boba Fett Bounty Hunter Star Wars game.
As different as humanly possible, but I do like your thought process.
Before Disney bought Star Wars.
Oh my God, as Johnny goes out to get it, he's like, holy shit, 13 came out? We're like, no, 1313. He's like, I thought I heard an echo. Yeah, 13 being canceled was big.
Canceled.
Oh man, that's true. True Fantasy Online was for the OG Xbox, and it looked a little bit like a Dragon Quest game, and it was an MMO. And it had plans to come out and never came out. And that'll be my answer, because for a very long amount of time, the OG Xbox was sort of leading the way with, starting to get the online gaming solidified. And I remember seeing trailers for that and being super excited for it. And it never came out. So that'll be mine.
Also,
go for it.
So Paradox, like a month and a half ago, canceled Life Story.
I know.
Their Sims.
Oh yeah, the Sims. True. Yeah, that sucks, actually.
Which a lot of people were looking forward to.
Yeah, you want a competitor there, right? You need a competitor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I was
because they have basically a monopoly on that market.
Yeah, there's nobody even.
And I mean, clearly that's for good reason, because creating a competitor takes a whole lot of resources.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, creating a competitor in that's okay. So listen, I know why everybody looks at The Sims and says, it's just,
yes,
you know what I mean?
It's very very easy to underestimate.
It is very easy to underestimate the sim mean going on underneath the skin there. Despite us having issues with Sims, I've had an issue. There's been some issue with every Sims for me, whether it be technical, whether it be gameplay style, whatever.
I mean, I think I touched on the podcast a couple of years ago that I blame The Sims really for a lot of like the monetization strategies in games
games
as the original sin.
So yeah, so Sims or that I just don't know how good it was going to be, so that one won't be on my list. But it does suck. Paradox canceled it. There was a KOTOR remake of some kind, but I think we're starting to see the remakes and remasters sort of solidify into that meandering territory where they don't feel like they're returning to us. There's been a couple where I'm all, okay, this is definitely, if you're new, this is definitely worth jumping into, but I don't feel like many are. What's another remake that, or sorry, another canceled one. Man, I try to wipe these out of my memory because why hold on to them?
Right. Yeah.
Power Slave 2, did Power Slave 2 come? I got to ask John from DF. He was here last time. I feel like Power Slave 2 got canceled because I was a huge Power Slave fan. But no, that's it for me. Any others for you guys? Big cancels?
It would be so easy to say Duke Nukem Forever because of what we got almost. But because that was the big project for like a decade of our lives back then.
At one time,
everybody was talking about.
It looked like it was going to be a thing. Yeah.
And
Next
then what
up,
it ended up being. Yeah.
let's see. What do we got? We got Johnny's talking points. We'll get to those in a second. More questions. Lands by Tossin says, as you already did talk about cloud streaming with John, I was actually wondering how well a streaming service done right would be. My personal anecdote is I have plenty of friends who want to play games in small amounts, but rarely can defend buying into a system, but they can defend paying for a couple months. I mean, that's a huge question. So, and who knows what would look good? I mean, GeForce Now and Xbox are both have their streaming. But we can use that to jump into the Ubisoft streaming. So I don't know if you guys saw this. I just got a random update on this, that Ubisoft has their own cloud streaming, that they're testing out their own servers outside of Amazon's Luna. So this morning, I decided prior to the podcast to load this up and check it out. I got to admit, first of all, way better than Amazon or Luna or whatever. I think that's under Amazon. Way better. Super low ping. Very surprised at the ping. And pretty good settings. 24 gig video card. I don't know what that is in the server, what video card that is server named, but it was pretty close to, like, let's say a 3080 or maybe even a 4070 or something. I can't remember how they do server stuff because it's a little different, but ran really well. It's locked at 1080p right now. But here's the thing. It is fast, man. It is a copy of hardware. You can tell there's nothing special about it. I saw the same, like, little moments of stutter and loading where you could see something hit the NVMe really quick. But I was playing Avatar, and Avatar's got a really slow beginning. I don't know if you guys have played Avatar.
Yeah.
But Avatar is like, here's this wondrous world, and you're inside of a goddamn tunnel complex for the first, like, 30 minutes of it. It's just terrible. But I was running around. You get an hour for free if you're on this list. I think it's 10,000 people were invited, or 10,000 people are eligible, and it's just when you sign in, it says, streaming list. That one works really good, and I love to see the competition. But I'll tell you what, they need to in no way, shape, or form raise their price. It needs to be just Ubisoft, whatever the monthly price is for the Ubisoft Connect or whatever it's called. I can't remember what their monthly is called.
Ubisoft Plus.
Is it Plus? And just add it on. I don't want to see no extra. We're getting tiered out, man. I don't know about you guys, but it's like spreadsheets and Excel sheets and color coded bar. It looks like an RPM meter on a truck when you're just gassing it. It's just all these different colored lights going off. But it worked. It worked quite well, and I could see it working as long as you add it to an existing service. I think a brand new service is tough right now because of GeForce Now, and you guys don't mess with this, right?
No, right now? Not too much.
If you get a chance, I'd love for you guys to check it out this weekend. If you have, I don't think you need to have Plus at all to have it.
Okay.
But anyway, if you check on Ubisoft on their launcher, which means Silver would have to install it. Because I think
he does. No, I have it installed.
Oh, you do have it installed.
He has that one
to run their games. Yeah.
All right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, worth checking out if you're a fan of that kind of stuff. Doif says Last of Us Factions cancellation hurt. Ooh, I forgot all about that. Silent Hill PT hurt. That's a good example. That is a good example. I not thought about that one at all. Did you guys ever do the Silent Hill PT demo that was on the PlayStation?
Yes,
What'd you think of that?
I liked it.
Did you?
I didn't go completely hype over
Right.
it the way so many others did. But I enjoyed it. Yeah, I thought it was well made, well put together.
Didn't Bully 2 get
That's like a
canceled,
concept demo.
or was that just a rumor?
I don't know.
That was just a rumor.
I think that was just a
Okay.
rumor.
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, I have probably the
Jade
biggest
Empire
disappointment for me.
too, though. Good.
Rockstar and Agent.
Oh yeah, Agent. Holy crap.
Agent was supposedly the espionage game we never really saw.
Right.
I think there were a couple of like elusive screenshots that somebody posted somewhere, but that was all we really got from it. But it was supposed to be like spy thriller or whatever from Rockstar.
Yeah.
Really interesting, and it never amounted to anything. And then they never even like officially canceled it. It just sort of petered out, and then they removed it from the projects they were working on.
And communication was so bad, Silver, that one time they asked both representatives from both companies, and they said, you need to check with the other representative. Neither one knew where the game was. Like, that's how bad. Sony was all, oh, it's on them, and Rockstar's like, it's on them. I mean, that's whatever was going on there behind the scenes, just, yeah, it didn't pan out. It's just too bad. Rockstar, man, that's been a long time. I haven't even, or not Rockstar, but Agent. I remember seeing that in video game magazines back when, like, old crappy pictures of, you know, a prototype that probably wouldn't have got into the game or been any part of it. Anangle also says Intel lays off 15,000 or more employees. They related this directly to lowering costs because of Meteor Lake and other underperforming products. They seem to be the only semiconductor company I've heard in the last 4 years reduce in size and are not currently growing. No question there. But
that is a huge number of employees.
It is a massive number. 15,000. Now they're worldwide, of course. But that is it is a massive
It's a good
number.
reminder of the size of the operation that Intel is.
Right. It's a good number. Yeah. It also, when you look at a situation like that and you see that they've got issues currently with their CPUs, there's the little, not the little, but the 13th, 14th gen thing. They definitely are starting to show the cracks. So especially what it seems like they were doing for the longest time is just cranking up their clock speed. And they weren't matching AMD for, you know, cache size and stuff like that. But they were like, hey, but we're the fastest. And it was still working out for the most part. But now we've got two gens that apparently have some kind of fairly large issue behind the scenes. And honestly, probably mostly caused by voltages and stuff like that, where you're just like, damn it. And I want competition across the board on CPUs. Right. I do not want one of those guys. That's why I love that Intel was coming into GPUs. I want 3 would be great.
3's great.
3's great.
3's almost like a magic number. But we have it with like Sony,
Nintendo,
and
Microsoft. Yeah, I love that idea. But yeah, ton of people, man. Absolutely sucks. We got some questions from people in our Discord and patrons. These are people who have supported us for 5 years or longer first, which is a long time. And I want to say thanks much to all you guys who do so. Let's see here. Clementine says, what's the chance of Avowed being delayed? I would say we haven't got any word right now, but it certainly seems like that is a very, very high chance of that being delayed. So we'll just go with that. Mark Benson says, Far Cry, Assassin's Creed games, Microsoft games, Sony games, EA, Activision, CDPR. Those are just some of the companies you have given never touch or deep sale ratings to, most of them a couple titles each. I watched a clip of a YouTuber pretending you didn't rate big games with lower ratings. Also said that it was easier for you to rate Flintlock a deep sale because it was a smaller game. However, I thought you knew the creators, so that seems like it would be more difficult. No? Also said something about you being too nice. Oh, that's cool. That's cute. How do you feel about reality versus fantasy and people just not telling the truth? Does nice ever come into game reviews? So you're listing off who I've given a never touch. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I've given never touches to all those guys. Have I given a never touch to Activision? Probably. But That seems weird. So the idea that it would be easier to that's actually completely incorrect, especially when that shows sort of a not understanding of the business, especially the zeitgeist of everything. Currently, the honest truth is, giving a never touch to a small company is going to get you shit online. It just is. We're currently in the independents are saving the world and big companies are terrible. That's just the way it is right now, whether we believe it or not, and I certainly don't believe it. I believe that big companies can make a great game, small companies can make a great game. They both can make shit games. When it comes to nice, no, anybody mentioning nice, that's more on the person mentioning it than a game review. It's not about being mean or nice. It's not about holding your emotions. But it is funny that I just got a DM from somebody saying I was too mean, and now somebody saying I'm too nice. When it comes to big games and given, like a deep sale or never touch to a big game, there's just no real impact. I mean, what are they going to do? They could hold your, if you are objective of your experience, which is inherently subjective.
Yeah.
They just don't care, man. I mean, for example, if this was true, I wouldn't have got a Sony game afterwards, wouldn't have got Far Cry.
Ubisoft,
you were
critical a couple times.
Over 50% of times. So, yeah, so whoever did that. I mean, the thing is, people don't check their whatevers, and then whenever anybody suggests something, they change whatever the thing is, so whatever the new bit of data can fit into their discussion of it. But I wish I could have rated Flintlock a great game because I know Derek, and I wish I could have rated Ashen a great game because I knew Derek.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just
does it suck?
People don't know what they're talking about. It's life.
When you play it and it's not hitting it, but you know some of the people. Is it a bit more?
No, weirdly enough,
to be objective
with Flintlock, it didn't even pop into my brain until I had finished the recording and was editing, and then remembered. I'm pretty good at just being like, it is what it is.
Blocking it out.
Yeah. It's actually people who worry about the nice and the angry that make me nervous, because that makes me feel like that person's all up in their feelings. Like they're, and then they hold it too to the right or too to the left or too angry. They think everything is about emotions. And it's like, no, it's really just, you can get excited about a game, and those are emotions that don't affect your rating or what have you. You can get really down on a game. But when you review a game, it's pretty much just like you guys, except I'm recording a video. And as long as you guys do a good job explaining to me what it is, then I can walk away from it and go, okay. But it's sort of the way, gaming and reviews go. It's just, so there's always going to be somebody who tries to pretend that they somehow know inside your brain that you've altered yourself. It's a very odd thing. But Mark, you just wanted to say, does nice come into it? Like I said, no, that's really weird to even think about. And then how do you feel about reality versus fantasy? People just not telling the truth. Who gives a shit? I don't know who it is, and it doesn't matter. That's life. Sin Obal says, you seem to think Star Wars had good things and bad things. However, was it mostly good or mostly bad? Okay, so Star Wars is mostly
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, we talked about this. They were hitting all the middle ground stuff. They were hitting this. They were hitting that. They were like, you can do a little exploration, but not too much. You can affect the factions, but you can always, this is what I talked about in the preview at the end, which a lot of people didn't get to because they were like, oh, he doesn't like it or he does like it. I'm done. But at the end, one of the things I stated was, it feels like they have a thought process that may not appeal to people over time, which is the idea of always getting out of jail free. At some point, there has to be a moment where you do too much. And by the way, I am a big fan of somehow having an inertia system in morale, meaning, or in factions. So let's say this. Let's say I screw over the Crimson Dawn twice, and both times they let me back. Wouldn't you guys agree that if a girlfriend screwed somebody else and you let her back, and screwed somebody else and you let her back, at some point you'd be like, you need to, well, some point we'd all be like, you're gone. But if you wanted them back, you would probably put a couple other hurdles in there. The same thing can happen with factions. You could say, okay, now it's 3 times as hard to get back, or now it's this. And so that way there's a thought process. And then maybe at some point they just say, dude, we don't want you back. You're dangerous, man. You're dangerous, Iceman. You can't come back. And I would be fine with that. I feel that that's where Outlaws might have an issue. It also might have an issue in that it's probably going to hit how Avatar hits. If you liked Avatar, you might like the game. If you like Star Wars, you might like the game. If you don't love Star Wars currently, the direct comparison would be Division Light and Uncharted Super Light. And I don't know if that's going to appeal to people. It's going to be a very interesting kind of situation for Ubisoft because
how does the
I don't know.
little companion work?
So, not bad. They can steal, right? They can knock people out, but and they can play dead, and you can see who you're going to affect, which I really liked. But there was one thing they did that I didn't mind that I think people are going to think is busy work. And that's where if you decide to destroy an electrical panel, it doesn't let you send them like a droid and they just do it. You have to wait till they climb up on the panel and then hit a button to tell it to scratch and destroy the panel. It's a very small, almost minuscule, not improvement even, but interaction.
It makes it more tactile, as it were, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, and it stopped me from doing the thing where I'm like, you go here, I'll go here, and every single situation working out just perfectly. Instead, I was like, you go there, and then I went around a corner, sort of got an eye on the panel. They went to the panel, I destroyed the panel, and then I went somewhere. There's a little bit of a disorganized tactical portrayal.
Yeah, you have to micro it a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't mind doing a little damage to stuff, I got to admit. But yeah, guys, I think that Star Wars is pretty much what you see is what you get. I think a lot of people who see what they see right now, if you're thinking to yourself, that looks like it might be fun, I feel like this is one of those games that doesn't have anything hidden in the, oh my God, there's an entire section that wasn't here, or oh my God, there's an entire problem that no one told us about. That's not Outlaws. Outlaws is, here's Star Wars, here's a new character, go out there and shoot some shit.
The hover bikes looked cool. You know, the fiction of just
they were fun
running around the steps or whatever.
Yeah, I gotta, they had it locked off though. I tried to explore. I got to explore a couple places, but then a little warning came up and it's like, out of bounds for this demo. It's like, damn it.
I'm not surprised because they move fast. So you would cover a lot of ground with that.
There's a lot of battles that you can do on them. How did you guys think that the battles in Red Dead worked out on the horses? Did you guys think that the gun fighting people on horses worked out fairly well, fighting the camera, lock-ons? Were you guys Red Dead 2 on horseback fans, or did you usually find yourself leaping off the horses or running away? Like what go ahead. Go ahead, Silver.
I tended to use Deadeye on horseback.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was generally the moment the times I used Deadeye was from horseback.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah, I hinged a lot of that.
I played free aim, so I didn't use the lock on.
I shamefully played with the aim assist that, when you aim your weapon, it actually homes in on the closest target. It's like ultra cheating, but I couldn't really deal with the aiming.
Because I was going to say it feels a little like that. It's got some lock-on stuff, some Deadeye kind of thing. I feel like they looked at, and that could be the problem, right? Where somebody comes into it and says, this feels like 3 or 4 games and an IP that is wrapped up around it. Now, if it's a normal gamer who doesn't watch a fucking video game podcast, right? If they're not watching Digital Foundry and Pixel Peeping or Shadow Squinting or whatever we're going to call it now, if they're just looking for a Disney game that is Star Wars, I actually see that doing well for them. Just like Avatar, for a person who likes Avatar, you just get to run around the world of Avatar and throw some spears at people.
Alternatively, I don't really like Avatar, and I love the Avatar game.
There you go. And I don't love Avatar as a movie series, really, and I liked Avatar a lot. So, yeah, the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an odd title, guys, because it's coming out at a time when the critical masses are so loud that it is very hard to deliver a game that isn't a 10. Right now it just seems like there's this thought process that every game needs to smash it, or it's terrible. And I mean, or again, oh, you're being too mean or you're being too. There's feelings. Like there's too many. People always give me shit for being unemotional, but I swear to God, there's too many feelings going on.
It's all
right
driven
now.
by
It's
reaction.
Yeah.
It's reactionary, and that's the nature of social media driven content.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that launches, because I was stunned by something I saw, which was four or five people that were not fans of the Outlaws initial preview, who then stated they went to this new preview, played it, and it started to click with them, and they were like, "Oh man, I think I actually like the ideas of this." So that was interesting to me to see, and I think it was even PC Gamer who said, like, I ended up playing a bunch, and this sort of changed my mind on what I'm thinking for this. By the way, I'm not saying yay or nay on their reviews. I'm saying one of the ones that it seems like turned around with the new coverage and the new footage. So yeah, we'll have to see how that goes, right? I think that previews are different than reviews, people. So if somebody's overly negative on a preview or overly positive on a preview, you know, their experience was good or bad, don't expect the review to match that. Because necessarily, yeah. I'm sure somebody got mad at me. I haven't even looked too much at comments. I usually look at the first, like, couple hours, make sure I haven't made a mistake. I'm sure somebody's mad that I said good and bad things. I'm absolutely sure that's happened. I'm sure somebody's like, "Oh, he said good and bad things." I'm like, "That I had good and bad experiences with it." Like, I'm just not gonna lie about it, because I've talked to Fighting Cowboy about it a bunch of times. It's like, dude, you can only skew this, you can only skew that. But with that game in particular, I had stuff where I was like, "Oh, this is enjoyable," and then a couple things, "Oh, this is not enjoyable," like the fucking puzzles.
I mean, there are a lot of people who are invested in hating it out of the gate, for sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah, that happens. Unfortunately,
it's funny you mentioned the shooting while riding, because I saw some gameplay of someone like riding the bike and trying to shoot people from the bike and being completely ineffectual. They weren't landing a single shot, and then they did like this special thing, which is like a dead eye thing, where like time slows down and they auto aim and stuff, and then they killed everybody with it. So that seems to be the solution. You know, you just
not easy shooting from horseback.
No,
there's a reason why it takes longer to train for than normal. Yeah. Speaking of that, or moving on from that, you are revisiting Cyberpunk. Speaking of things that have had different experiences depending on when you actually get to play them.
Yeah.
So you're revisiting this with the expansion?
Yes. Yeah.
So give us the rundown. What's the what was the reasoning, and what are your thoughts so far?
So, well, frankly, I had an opening because there aren't a lot of games out right now. So I've been doing, SnowRunner, and I decided to pop into that because I've been on holiday this week. So actually, the game is great right now. You know, if you can really lean into the kind of lighter, RPG light aspect, and you keep reminding yourself that it's that, and your decisions will never ever matter. You know, if you make peace with that part, I think you can have a fantastic time.
If you make peace with the entire thing you thought was going to be in it originally, that it's not there, it's a good game.
It's not there.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, lack of interaction, a lot of stuff we talked about, that continues to be a problem. Some of the stuff they added is also a problem. For example, the police. Yes, you can now get the police to chase you.
Right.
But it's preposterous the way it works sometimes. Like,
now I need to hear this. Is that like downtown?
Okay. I was driving like a scout, a Boy Scout character. Okay, I was like respecting, lights, traffic, everything, just full like immersive. And I accidentally touched the car in front a little bit, but a bit, like I didn't even ding it. And the guy freaked out, and the police was immediately on my ass. And not only on my ass, but shooting me to kill.
Oh, wow.
They destroyed my car immediately.
Yeah, maybe so.
Because I semi-dinged someone in, like, it's crazy. It's almost like in Red Dead 2, how...
bumping somebody with a horse.
Yeah, you bump someone with your horse, and it's a mortal offense. All, the entire corpus of the police is after you. So some stuff like that is annoying for sure, but it looks great even without the RTX, because even to this day, you can't play with RTX on if you don't have a 40 series to do like, DLSS 3, right? Like super sampling, all that stuff. So with the 3090, I am able to lock it at 60, but no RTX.
Mm-hmm.
But, the game looks great. It plays really well. I would say they fixed up a lot of like quality of life stuff. Like the mini map was super zoomed in and was almost unusable at times. Originally, I could name a lot of little things like that they have improved.
Grenades are no longer a finite resource. It's another huge one.
Yeah, huge one. There are a lot of stuff with throwing weapons. So, they've made a lot of cool changes, including the new perk system, which I think is a lot more fun to play with. And you can respec at any moment, which is great.
Is respecing at any moment super important to you guys?
Not to me.
It is because you will look at a perk, right? And it kind of sounds good, like, 25% damage when you do this thing. But actually, like when you try it, you might find that you're unable to consistently take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And then you can take that point back and put it somewhere else. I like the flexibility. Yeah. And allows you to experiment a lot more with those.
I think it's also a question of how well, like how important the ability to respec is also a question of how well is the skill tree laid out.
Yeah.
And how well is it explained, right? Because like the worse laid out it is, and the worse explained the different skills are, like the more obtuse it is, obfuscated, the more you need a respec because the greater likelihood you'll spec into something that you don't want to spec into, or that you misunderstood or misread because the wording wasn't clear on what it was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if it's clearly laid out and the skills are sort of laid out in a way that makes sense, tier-wise, I don't necessarily need a respec. In fact, I kind of like being locked in by the decisions I make. And I think that can add a lot of weight to those, like to those decisions when you are locked in. So I think it can work both ways depending on the circumstances.
Yeah, I like locked in a lot. I like the idea of my choice is going to matter, and in a way, it's going to sound weird. I feel like a choice on a big skill set feels like a narrative choice I've made versus dialogue.
Yeah.
Right. So I actually get a lot of role playing out of a single choice. Now, if it's a +1 to percent to something, fuck that. I hate those skills. I hate them. They should just add up on their own. Like you level up and that just gets added, and then you go get the cool stuff. But hang on. I just want to say, when you're locked in, I find that I love the feeling of I've made this choice. However, I've come to the easy conclusion that many people like it. So like when I review a game, I'll say what I like, and then I'll say, but it's got respect for those people out there who want to respect things. And if that's for you. But for me personally, I find myself not even, I can't tell you the last time I've respect in a game, even if it's got it. Where I'll just be like, I guess I'm crunching for more, I guess I'm crunching for more experience points because I didn't buy this one thing I need to buy, and I need a ton because I'm leveled up. And so the experience point draft is going to be huge, and I just don't do it. But I'm cool if other people do. What were you going to say, Silver, by the way?
Just, I think one of the best systems I've seen for like introducing ways to do like the little bonuses in the background was actually in Alpha Protocol, where it was a way of giving narrative significance to the choices you made, because even like small choices you made that didn't seem to have a whole lot of impact, they would give you a trait underneath it that would give you some kind of skill bonus, like maybe a plus to hacking or to diplomacy, like persuasion or whatever it might be. it would give you some kind of bonus in the background. And there were like by the end game, by the time you reach the end, you had like dozens and dozens and dozens of these bonuses that just listed up that you had built up throughout the course of the game. And they were all completely unique to you and unique to the choices you had made throughout the game. The choices you didn't necessarily make to boost up a skill, but they were those skills were boosted up from the narrative choices you made during the game.
Yeah, I love that. By the way, this tastes like balls and fucking armpit hair. But I am drinking it.
What flavor is that?
Balls and armpit hair? I don't know. It's quite literally the worst thing I've tasted in a long time. It's Ultra Peachy Keen Monster. And man,
it's not a good way to wash down the pepper jack cheese.
No, it is nasty, man. Nasty. But but when it comes to those passive skills, that kind of stuff, I love the idea of that, where you get something for doing a thing you didn't know was going to pop up. I think that's awesome. You know, you buy you answer something, it's like you're friends with him, you get a +2 to, you know, when this guy's in your team or whatever, and you didn't really plan on that. That always feels good.
I have a question for you though, Carrick. In light of you not respeccing, what if you only have limited experience points, so you can't?
You mean a
try
max?
out other things, yeah, unless you respec. Do you respec then?
No. If I need to tell a story for the review,
or will you create an entirely different character?
I'll create an entirely different character.
Yeah.
If I need to create a story for the review, as in I need to explain people that, you know, what it feels like to be this or that, and I don't want to go through all that rigmarole again, then I will. But I told you guys this, when a choice comes up, I like to make that instant choice that feels me. And even if it's wrong, and that includes skills. Now, I read the skills. I'm not saying I go, plus whatever. I will take a little bit of time, but I like that feeling of I've invested. And by the way, I can tell you, there are far more games I've been surprised by investing in something that I didn't know was going to work out, that worked out and elevated the game's feel to me. And that's one of the things I have a problem with, whether it be YouTube, movies, whatever. When you go to Netflix, if you've watched action, what does the fucking Netflix show you? Action. It says, you like this, therefore this. So sometimes in those, when I make a rash decision, I live it out, because there's been times where I've come out the other end of that game and been like, wow, that skill that I usually never use, or that type of fighting that is just not normally for me, was fantastic. And it elevates the entire experience for me. But it goes wrong. It goes wrong. Yeah. I've had games where I'm at the end going, man, this is rough.
No,
because
I respect it. I mean, it reminds me of real life, where you thought it was really fun to learn the tuba in high school or whatever. And it was not. And
I leveled up tuba,
like
and
useless
everybody's
skill.
like, no one cares except for tuba players in a very specific place that need a tuba player. Yeah.
Brass bands.
Kigaroo C says, the best ACG Gaming Podcast. I'm playing everything. Tomb Raider, Survivor, Trilogy, DCO, SWTOR. Probably will play Batman Arkham Origins as well.
Holy moly.
Yeah, he's always in there playing a bunch of different games. What's up, Corn Effect? How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Multiple people say that they believe that Johnny rear-ended a CEO in Cyberpunk. That's what Silver said too, was rear-ended a corpo. Feels like that was probably high chance. I don't think I'll ever revisit Cyberpunk, but I'm glad to see that get all fixed up. I'm glad to see it return to form and where they've gone with that. Let's see, what else do we have? Discord Xbox update. I'm actually excited for this, guys. So currently, PC users can stream and watch streams, right? And Xbox users can stream, but they can't see anybody's streams. So we have a lot of Xbox and PlayStation users. When you get 20 or 30 people in a voice chat and one person streaming, and you realize a quarter to a half of the people in that voice chat can't see the stream, that sucks balls. And so they've added to the insider ring for Xbox an update that allows people to be able to play it, which is awesome. Or watch it, which is awesome. That's a huge bonus.
Picture in picture, where you can play your game and have a little.
No, it's in Discord. However you're looking at Discord on your Xbox, I'm sure that's where you'll see your video. I don't know how people are bringing up Discord.
So they can't be playing a game and watching a stream. It's like
I said, I think Discord allows that. The app on Xbox, I'm pretty sure does allow you to play and read chat, have
picture
it like a
picture or whatever.
App. Well,
Yeah.
as you can tell, I'm trying to purposely not say that because picture-in-picture
Yeah.
sounds planned.
Oh.
And sounds like feature-filled. I don't know if Discord's that way on the Xbox.
Okay. Yeah, you're saying there's some way to achieve a similar...
Yeah, there's people who are streaming. They can talk. You know, maybe it goes
Okay.
in the background. It could be where it pops up, like voice chat, where it goes away and it
They
pops
got
up. You hit a
some
button,
way
it pops
to-
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't done the
Okay.
Xbox Discord in a long time. You know, I might stream, but I'll still be at my PC, so I'll be able to talk into the mic, kind of thing. Talk into the Mac. I'm currently playing through Phantom Liberty and having a good time. What's up, Javier? Ozluma says, I've been playing Alien Dark Descent. Surprised how solid of a game that is. Yeah, that one's been patched up big time, too.
That was when I've been playing the last couple of weeks as well.
That was one of those titles that I was like, if this gets patched, because I loved the real feel of leaving and coming back and all that kind of stuff. It was just, there was a lot of issues at that time. And it seems like it has come back well.
Unsurprisingly, like it often is with these Alien games, the weakest aspect is fighting the non-alien enemies.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
That just feels like it goes with any game whenever there's a certain type of enemy. Fighting the type that isn't structured or isn't like a part of the main story is always the piece of shit enemy that gets caught on branches and stuff. Let's see. What else do we got?
So it would be interesting if for once the science officer in an Alien game wasn't like a complete bad guy.
Wasn't a betrayer or... Yeah, that's just the typical thing. Science guys are always bad guys. Maybe that's how all this comes together. The negativity towards science is from everybody watching Paul Reiser as the first scientist in that original Alien.
He wasn't even a scientist. He was just a
he was just a corpo
guy. Yeah,
he was a corpo. Yeah, true.
Yeah, it was Ian Holm who was the android science guy in the original Alien.
In the original Alien. Yeah. Reading here, this popped up while we were doing this. Sony's Bungie faces reckoning after mass layoff. So we discussed this a little bit. This is from Bloomberg. So I'm assuming Jason Schreier. I'm going to read a little bit about this. If there's any extra stuff on Bungie here, I'm just scanning through this. Second layoff in less than a year for them.
Prison Architect 2 got delayed.
Prison Architect, that's the other one I'm looking at right now. Yeah,
indefinitely. Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Which is a big red flag, unfortunately. Especially in the light of them canceling
The
Life
Sims.
by You.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm reading this. There's some rumors. There's not much new data in this. I just wanted to verify it. Longtime veteran Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy of Bungie both have left too. Have both left the Destiny team. Luke Smith was one of the guys that has been there for a lot of years. So, yeah, definitely some odd stuff going on in the last couple years with the industry, and certainly with some of these big companies. I think a lot of people assume the big companies. We should never assume this, but we're untouchable. It's like That's what many years of unrestrained growth, or at the very minimum, being able to find ways to monetize your current
growth for the sake of growth,
your current team, and then suddenly it doesn't met out one single time. Yeah, it's pretty sad. We were talking to Kig about what he's been playing. I've been playing a bunch of Outer Worlds and revisiting what's the version called? The Spacer's Choice version?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I think so.
I can only speak for my own experience on this. So there's cool things like the faces, there's some good stuff there. There's a couple places where it looks really good. They made some artistic choices, and this is sort of that thing where the artistic choice makes you wonder if the remake, we were talking earlier about remakes and remasters, it makes me wonder just how, because I don't think it was needed, by the way, when this game came out, the Spacer's Choice version. And as I'm playing it, I'm like, I just don't think I don't mind playing it. It's got some improvements some places, but there's actually a lot of changes to its overall art aesthetic and color that just seem arbitrary to say we changed stuff. And there's still a lot of problems with that game's engine. Pretty egregious pop-in, actually. Especially when I've maxed that thing out. It's getting like 450 frames per second. everything's as maxed out as possible, and you still see bushes popping in and stuff like that, especially for a game that old. That being said, I'm enjoying the hell out of it. Pavardi's cool. Pavardi's in that one. She's cool. I got the Reverend. I can't remember his name. Starts with an M. But I got him. I got a couple of the other side characters, and I've just been enjoying going around and blasting people. I'm excited for Outer Worlds 2 more than Avowed. And I realized that last night. I was like,
I tried to get back into it again a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't.
Outer Worlds. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still just bounced off it, unfortunately.
Took me 1 or 2 times. Yeah, no, I can get that. Vapor says, Carrick, did you do a walking the walk for Cyberpunk? No, not even close. I don't even think I could walk very long in that game, especially back when I was more interested in it without it crashing or seeing a NPC jet off into the sky.
You also didn't have a walk toggle back then.
Oh my God, I forgot.
Yeah, you were just
jogging the jog. Jogging the jog. I forgot all about that. Yeah, you didn't even have a walk toggle.
But you could walk with a gamepad, but yeah.
Yeah,
well,
of course,
yeah, of course.
But I mean,
of course. I'm recording on the PC for the most part, though. Yeah. But I could have
still use a gamepad on the PC though.
It feels like shit on the PC compared to the mouse and keyboard because of how much is going on and how much you can crank up things. It didn't work for me as much on the game, unless I turned down the difficulty and stuff. They have a lot of settings too for sensitivities and things.
Yeah.
For gamepad, they have a ton actually, but
yeah. I mean, I used the gamepad throughout.
Yeah, I hated it. Yeah, it's not for me at all. Definitely not something. And crashing the crash, yeah, that had so many issues. There's no chance I will do the walk for that game. I did do one for the Ascent though. If you want to see a game that does Cyberpunk better than Cyberpunk, the Ascent does, and you can check out a walking the walk I did for the Ascent, which was very fun to do, even though there is no Ascent 2 coming, which always sucks every time I play it. Then SteamWorld Heist 2 got reviewed, came out, and the reviews for SteamWorld Heist 2, which I want to check out still, are lower than I thought, 75. Which, did you guys do SteamWorld originally? SteamWorld Heist?
Dig?
SteamWorld Dig, yeah, those games.
Yeah,
did you guys?
Yeah,
I like them.
Quite fun.
Yeah, this one's. Yeah. It looks like this game is more of the same, but loses itself into much of the same, which is sort of the generalized idea I'm getting from reading some of the reviews here. Has anybody in chat played those games, or played the new one in particular? Would be even more interesting. I would like to see if those have been, some type of game that you've played. I like the idea of it. Johnny's also reading a new book, and I want to hear about it. What is it called? The Poker Mind.
The mental game of poker. I believe it's called. I can pull it up here. It's a fascinating read, mostly about mental. So it's surrounding poker, but really it kind of talks about any craft you're trying to learn, any discipline you're trying to learn, and it has a very structured way to set up the learning and like your expectations and stuff like that. And it's called The Mental Game of Poker by Jared Tendler. It's very solid read, and it's really interesting how he talks about when you're trying to learn something, right? Your performance is going to vary a lot of times. So, like your best game looks very different than your worst game. And if you plot that on like a Gauss chart, like a bell curve, like in the middle, you have most of your like average. And then, you have your really good games, your really terrible games. For example, if you're learning League of Legends, or a game that also applies, or like martial arts, like you do, Carrick. I was trying to compare to that too. And I never thought about my best game and worst game being linked in some way. So there's a way in which, by improving some aspects of like your worst game, you actually elevate your best games too. It's almost like you're raising your baseline,
right?
And then you also can raise your top line, the games you do super well. So there's a lot of stuff like that. It talks about, the levels of mastery, which kind of starts at you know, you don't know what you don't know, right? You're just completely, and then you go up this spectrum to where it's unconscious competence. I forget exactly how they say it, but basically it's so ingrained, you learn something to such an extent that it's second nature. So that's why I thought of martial arts when I was talking to you, because this is probably what it's like for a lot of like the movements, you know, and the techniques you have to do. If you have to spend a lot of mental effort thinking about, you know, every angle where you put your arm or whatever, that probably doesn't work in real time. That's probably too slow. You actually need to get to the level where you don't have to think about it, right? It's
intuitive.
Second nature. Yeah, it's intuitive. And a lot of things are like that. You know, again, comparing it to League of Legends, right? A lot of stuff is like that. Playing guitar, you know, if I have to think about where I'm putting my finger, actually doesn't work. I can't do it that fast, right? I need to slow it the hell down and make it become a complete like muscle memory thing. So I thought, a lot of interesting stuff in it.
In our martial art, we did have 4 levels. So it was if you did something wrong and didn't know it, did something wrong, knew it, did something right, knew it, did something right without knowing it. And you just consistently do it right. And I think almost everything has some kind of, you know, whether they break it into 6 bars, break it into 4. But it does remind me of when I was trying to learn guitar. And occasionally when I mess with it, I will always like break something down super slow into like, you know, you got like just 5 notes. But once you get those 5 notes and you played it a couple dozen times slow, you can then sort of be like, da-da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. And, you know, that's just sort of how, that's how we learn. And it was cool when I heard you reading about this, because I had read it and I like the part on tilt, because especially when I have people in the Patreon, they'll come in and I have a level and it's really not the most fun for anybody involved, but it's a level that helps people figure out where they want to do and walk them through issues and stuff. And one of the things you have to do is explain to somebody even before you help them. And this is what self-help teachers have. This is what almost even a psychiatrist has to do. You have to explain to the person that what I might tell you may not, it may put you, if you use poker terms, on tilt. It may actually not make you happy, which then shuts them down from learning, which they've paid for. And what I'm trying to do is get them to learn as quickly as possible so I can get them out and be like, all right, go on your, you know, go forth and see what you can do. And the tilt stuff I thought was really good for people who do YouTube or people who do whatever. And it's so easy in normal life, you know, how to just sort of look at something and be like, oh, you know what? I don't need to get, you know, this matters or this matters, and sort of be able to decide in the moment what is something you want to cling to maybe use to change, and what is something that just in the long scheme of things doesn't at all matter. Like it'll just wash away.
I'm really excited to get to that part in the book, because tilt is something I've experienced in many like crafts and stuff that I've tried to learn. Just the frustration of when you know you're not performing well. You know, I had this in my job when I was kind of learning early on, and I knew I wasn't doing a good job, you know, and I couldn't figure out, okay, like, you know, what do I have to do? And that's a bad feeling, you know, because you feel kind of stuck in a plateau. You feel, you know, you're playing worse because of it too. And rationally, it makes sense for you to, you know, let go. Or in the League of Legends space, you could say you just had a bad game. It makes sense to let go of it and not let it impact your next game. You know this at a rational level, and yet it's hard to do, right? It's still impacting you in the next game very often.
Yeah, it definitely sucks to be at a job when you're middling and you cannot figure out why. And I have for sure had that, where I'm trying to figure out why some part of this job, somebody will give you a new responsibility or whatever, and you think, I'm going to merge this into the norm. It's going to fit in. I can do this. I can take these and for some reason you're always off your game. But I do agree with what you said. If you're looking at your fingers and thinking about it all the time, you're a minute millisecond, a nanosecond behind the beat. And that's how I feel in projects. When you do add something, you might be able to do it. And if it's not all timed, if it's not all this massive orchestra of a company, you're probably in good shape and you're going to get to time pretty quickly. But if you are, and you've taken it on and people expect everything to work. Yeah, that's when you suddenly feel so bad. And then what's even worse is when you're mad at the actual situation and not a person. It sounds weird, but with a person, you can maybe go, hey, we need to talk or whatever. But if you're just, if it's just a new thing you're learning, sometimes you're all, what are you going to do? Smash the guitar? Like some 1980s, rock band or something like that. There's not much you can do about it. It blows. But yeah, I think you'll like that book, man. It's definitely one that it's got some stuff that doesn't work for you or I, because it is poker.
Yeah, of course.
But they try to do a good job, sort of layering it over and identifying what works for different people in different ways.
I don't know about you, but a lot of these self-help books, well, I don't know if it's technically self-help or not, but
that one's more analysis.
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah. I like reading them, but I find very often that they don't apply to what I'm trying to do, or it doesn't work for me, which is fine, but I still give it a shot. So a lot of time I'll read this idea, so it will say, oh, you have to approach it this particular way. Very often I'll go and have a crack, and then many times it doesn't work, and it's not for me. But there have been a couple times where I did try specifically what they were saying, and it made a huge difference.
What I don't like, dude, is when you go and you're talking to somebody and you know that there's the amount of noise on the input is super high, meaning there might be a million people who try to be a YouTuber and only 100,000 who have been successful. The amount of noise on that sample set is ridiculous. And you have to figure it all out. But then you'll have somebody being like, this is exactly what you need to do. And you're all, okay. But the moment that's said, you're all, wait a minute. So whenever I'm helping them, I'll just be like, what's worked for me? And it could be the way I look. It could be the color of a background. It could be one word I said. It could be all, but I'll explain to you. But man, don't ever think that exactly, what I'm doing is going to work for you, or what somebody else, because I've seen a lot of people try to get into something, whether it be martial arts, they'll be all, I've seen people pick trainers who are speed trainers, people who are they're really good at a particular thing. And they'll be like, I'm going to get faster. And you look at their body shape and you're like, I don't know if that's what you want to work on, because it doesn't really fit. It's like, if you're a wrench and you're really good at being a wrench, that's fine. You don't have to try to be a screwdriver at the same time. They're both tools and they're both in a toolbox, and that's fine. And you definitely get that. But I think that one in particular is good because it is an analysis of what's going on. Tells you that
it's a bit more objective.
Yeah.
Like, you might say that some of the stuff doesn't work for you, but in a way you can't really argue with the structure of it. It's kind of like, it's pretty I don't like anything that's self-help, because it's usually a filter that somebody's writing a self-help book, and that filter is maybe they're popular enough, but why are they writing that versus doing something? Do they truly feel like they want to help people, or is that a deal for them? So there's multiple filters that go into getting those. So usually the analysis stuff I like more. And they often have to format it, like you said, as a blueprint for everybody. Like this will work. Like I read David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah.
And I mean, the guy is a psychopath, but
10% of the shit applies to normal people. Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to be Goggins. Like, all due respect. Like, what for him is great, which is like, just having this tenacity. Sure, tenacity is great, but I don't want to live that life, and that's also fine. It's almost like he's painting it as the life to lead,
right?
In a way, you have to be under struggle 100% of the time.
I don't know if you guys
I just don't think that's.
Sorry, I apologize. Go ahead.
No, I just don't think that's for everybody. You have your percentage of struggle that's pretty healthy.
Dude, I just want to point out that is what pisses me off whenever I hear anybody say, you should go out and achieve your dreams and ignore everything else and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, some people I know are incredibly happy at work. Yeah. But we should for sure at the start of this say, if you may not have the luxury. But what I'm saying is, and that is huge, but this shit about like, not understanding that some people like work. There is a really weird thing that's come up lately where it's like you can't
Yeah, for some that
work.
is their dream.
For some people, they come home from a job done for another person. This is why good assistants are hard to find, by the way. You know why? Because most assistants want to be the person in charge, and they fucking suck as assistants. But a good assistant is somebody who their job is to make sure that other thing runs well. And that's how they get paid, is that other thing is running at as good as they can get it to run. And currently it's always about, you go do this, you go do this. You know, you if you're even 1 hour working for somebody else, you know, you're not living your best life. And I'm all, dude, that makes no sense.
I think the restaurant business in particular is full of those kinds of people because
everybody wants
so many
own...
hours. It's so high pressure. People with that service mentality.
Yeah.
It's so many hours. It's so much pressure, so much stress, and generally for so little money that you don't go into that for the money.
Yeah.
You don't go into that for like the career option. You go into that because it's something you feel passionate about, that work. And yeah, that work is grueling. That work is taking a whole lot of stuff from you. And I'm sorry for like the lighting filter on my camera at the moment freaking out.
No worries.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine.
But that is like the idea of serving, like the importance of either like the hospitality of like a hotel, like the service there, or at a restaurant or wherever it might be is very, very important to those people and sort of part of their core identity, I feel like.
Yeah, it's just one of those, it's just an odd thing, especially you see in self-help books, which most of the time is really just personally you're helping him by making a sale. And the rest of the stuff I get is a general, you know, Goggins in particular, I didn't actually find very good at all compared to most other people who I think approached it from a more open-minded other things going on, because his is a very finite line of what he's successful in. And that success is insanely narrow. So it's like, if you want to do exactly what I'm doing or try to alter exactly what I'm doing, this is sort of useful. And I've found, especially somebody who reads analysis, especially analysis stuff for different businesses and how people put things together, that is not at all the case. I mean, for the most part, most humans, just by your very need, are, you know, bards. We're all bard, you know, not a master of any one thing. But yeah, it's cool that you got that. There's many other I've enjoyed. I don't really like discussing them too much because everybody assumes that there's some kind of like, well, I think the assumption is probably true in some weird way, but they feel like there's some type of scam. I don't think, and a lot are, you know, when it's ever self-help, but it's like, that's why there's ones that somebody will say, I talked to 10,000 people and analyzed what works. That to me is awesome, because that's this wide sample, and you start going, oh, okay, we're looking at this versus I followed Michael Jackson around, and here's why Michael Jackson was a star, and you're all, what?
Yes.
But I mean, that's just write a, you know, biography at that point, because that's really all a person, or for the most part, most of what somebody will get from that kind of experience, especially when it's super focused. That's cool, man. I'm glad you did it. There's, I think there's a lot to be said for sitting down and reading a book too, versus, let's say, a PDF.
It is. It's I got the physical book, and it's great, man. There is, like you say, there's definitely something special about just.
I struggle to do it these days, sadly, because of concentration issues. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, and it's hard for me too, man. We have so many distractions, and I want to play this game, you know, and your mind is pulling you down all these different things.
I would say scheduling works, but you know, I'm talking to one of my friends right now about
physical health, like
there's that, and he just doesn't want to schedule. He just doesn't want to schedule, and you're all right. Well, if you don't want to schedule, then
fair enough. But for yourself, I found that really works
for me
to like allocate time. Yeah, because if you say, I want to be the kind of person who reads, you need to also then
read.
You need to allocate time to actually read, because guess what? If you don't, then you will fill all the empty time you have with other shit, right? And you'll never get to the reading. But if you say, okay, I have this 30 minutes that I'm going to sit down and read, that's a good way of doing it.
I'm seeing people do Unreal, a bunch of Unreal, and jumping into that and finding that while YouTube videos are very helpful, they've now been informing me back that they're starting to get locked into whatever the YouTuber's doing. So if the YouTuber says, I'm going to build a diorama or I'm going to build a mountain pass in Unreal, they end up basically building a mountain pass that's passable, but it's not really learning as much as they wanted, which is the sort of the fundamentals of fumbling around inside of an editor. And instead, like 3 or 4 of them have ended up getting books and just reading the books instead of following a YouTube. So there's something to be said also for this, how you learn. You know, some people learn better in video, some people learn better on audio. I don't know about you guys. I love audiobooks, but I'll walk away and 5 minutes later be all, what? Where are we?
Yeah.
You know, but I'll think I'm
like
listening.
that. Yeah.
I'll be all, I'm listening for sure. And who's this character? I thought they died 6 months ago. Go ahead, Silver. What were you going to say?
I did a couple of years ago go through the entire like bibliography of Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, French aviator, adventurer, writer, famously wrote The Little Prince, one of the most widely published books in history. But I also did an audiobook of his memoir, Wind, Sand, and Stars, that I recorded on my YouTube channel. Like there's a lot of stuff that he writes that is sort of deeply compelling and inspirational, also because of his sort of perspective, very unique, because he came up in flight in like the 20s, at a time when they had no radar, when they basically had to navigate by sight in the sky, and then sort of the radio and compass was all they had, and their engines were unreliable, so you could go up and your engine would stall and you would fall. So there were constant deaths. Like average lifespan of their pilots was fairly short, so like death was a constant companion. And he later went on actually to serve in World War II in the French Air Force, fighting the German invasion, where casualty rate in the French Air Force was like 80%. Like completely ridiculous. Like basically every mission was a suicide mission, and they knew that their missions were pointless because they would fly, like the Germans moved so quickly that they would fly over, see the recon the German lines, come back, and by the time they delivered the information to French headquarters, the German lines had already moved.
Yeah.
So it was already outdated. So they flew suicide missions for pointless reasons, for the sake of flying.
That's a true suicide mission.
And sort of all of his thoughts and reflections on that are extraordinarily clear. They're very cogent. They're very engrossing. He's a very deep humanist, a very empathic person. Like his most famous line from The Little Prince is, "It is only with the heart that you can see clearly." And he has this really beautiful passage in his memoir, Wind, Sand, and Stars, about loss and time, and where he likens human relationships to gardens and how we cultivate them, and then when people die, we're then walled off from ever walking back into that garden again. And how relationships, when they close off, we can't just conjure them again out of thin air, because we can't plant an acorn and then expect an oak to rise the next day, because our relationships are the culmination of time, of investment, of shared memories and experiences and all that stuff. Like he writes extraordinarily eloquently about all of these things of the human experience in all of his work.
I thought you had a butt coming.
No.
The way you were describing that entire thing, I was expecting. Yeah, he's like he was this, he was that, and I was like, oh man, this is getting. But I mean, he
sadly,
was a terrible
he died.
person.
I mean, he was really sort of too old to be serving, but they sort of let him serve all the same. And he served in air recon, and he was reconnoitering over the Mediterranean in 1944 when he was shot down by a German airplane. They found his plane, I think, back like 20 years ago, finally.
While he was talking about this, I refreshed Reddit, and I want to read this. Former GTA dev says Rockstar had so long to make San Andreas that it went crazy with the amount of stuff added. This goes with the other dev who has left Rockstar, who stated to not expect GTA 6 to be outrageous. I don't know if you guys saw this, but basically it came up that the idea of what GTA 6 will be or do, that people need to pull in the reins a little bit. You know, at some point, I think people are like, yeah, you're going to be able to, plant entire forests, burn them down 6 years later, affect global warming. And it's sort of becoming a little bit more realistic as we get closer. I dig that they're talking about this, though. I love seeing behind the scenes. But he said they had so much time to make San Andreas that they just went crazy with the amount of stuff added. And you guys do remember hot coffee, right? Because there were parts of that were official. Yeah. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they were built into the game.
They were built,
but they were also removed.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder how much stuff is in
there. Yeah,
I'm sure a bunch of stuff has been left in there that we found, but I wonder if there's other secrets, because you always find somebody. You'll always hear a Reddit post or something, and somebody be, somebody was scrubbing Red Dead 1, right?
We found an Easter egg or something.
Yeah, we found an Easter egg, and you're like, whoa, what the hell is that? I think the biggest Easter egg that probably did change gaming had to have been hot coffee, though, because I remember that came out, wasn't in the game as in playable.
I think you're very right, yes.
And caused all kinds of issues with, parents and people thinking, oh my God, it's in a game.
Yeah,
it's like
rating services, yeah.
That was crazy, man. The rating service stuff.
And that also,
was nuts.
Because that also then impacted mods, because then our developers responsible for what modders do with their game subsequently in terms of like potential rating when they're put on store shelves.
Yeah, because a normal gamer who plays that game was not able to unlock what they unlocked.
No, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they are, by the way. I don't see how you would even say a developer... I guess you could say developers need to start cutting every single bit of extra stuff out of their games, and we've talked about this in the past, where
sometimes the code
data
is so
mining,
interwoven, right, that you can't do that. You can't just pull one thread out without.
Yeah, but I mean, it's definitely popped up where people have data mined DLC names and stuff, which has really hurt the PR, the cycle of like excitement. In 6 months we're gonna have these new fighters. And they all get leaked day one because somebody data mined it. That does suck for everybody. I do like the surprise as well. I'll cover leaks, but some stuff I haven't covered because it's just like,
That's also a huge thing for Helldivers, where people have like
data mined Helldivers too.
Data mined all these like pretty much the Illuminate have pretty much all been data mined for like their animations and stuff. And
that's the third or fourth. That's fourth.
Yeah, the
third
faction.
Third faction. Yeah. Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy. Helldivers 2 did as well as it did. I mean, we know they had issues and all that stuff, but it is awesome. It is awesome.
Like I think I've talked about. I think the top player count for the original Helldivers ever concurrently was like 20,000, and we hit over 400,000 with Helldivers 2. Yeah.
I feel like
crazy.
Well, that's another conversation to get into. Yeah, when you look at concurrent for Pal World, there's been a lot of games that have been breaking some records or their numbers are stunning.
I think that's also just the reality where we are now, because there are so many more people playing games now. So you are going to see those records, I think, continuously.
That's also why the concurrent metric is a little bit flawed when you're comparing.
Very flawed.
Current and past. We talked about it. It also depends on the type of game. 100,000 players for a single player game is way different
than a free-to-play game. Yeah,
than free-to-play game. Yeah, so it's not like apples to apples.
I love the idea of concurrent because I like to see. I mean, I played DCU with the guys last night and there were 720 people on a server that I could find. That was it total. So that was a pretty high level for DC Universe Online. Actually, that was a pretty high number because it's 13 years old. On Switch and on Xbox, it's like 12. So if you want to do a game with friends, you need to know. So concurrent, very useful for that.
Yes.
But when I see somebody say this 5-year-old single player game has 5,000 people, what is that even? So that there's no connection whatsoever. That means nothing. When day one happens, the big thing is that so many people are getting into, it's not necessarily even that gaming is growing, it's just that the online number of games growing. These consoles are built to show you online ASAP, something which Helldivers had an issue with on the Steam part. We're starting to see these huge concurrent player numbers because also a lot of gamers are getting those PCs on the side. You know, it doesn't end. We're seeing certain games with those concurrent counts that make sense because it's like Pow World. It's not. I mean, I'm not saying Cyberpunk didn't do good, but it's not necessarily the most technically requiring. You know, it doesn't require a 4090 or anything, and you sort of see it. And also, Pow World. You know, I personally think it had a lot going for it in the art department, for better or worse. We talked about possible copying and all that stuff a long time ago, but
yeah,
it is cool to see these games doing really well. But like Johnny said, man, free to play versus even a cheap $10 game is a vastly different thing. You know, I mean, free to play is free to play. You know, the ability to just hit play,
yeah,
is such a massive, just no thought other than your hard drive size, I guess, would be your biggest thing.
yeah.
You know,
And there's almost inflation. Like, you know, when you talk about dollars from 10 years ago, it's, you know, it's worth more than, so like 100,000 people 10 years ago, it was a much bigger piece of the pie than what that is today.
Or at the very least, it was a smaller, it wasn't happening as much at the very least. So
Yeah.
I get why the news is big now, but it doesn't interest me a ton. You know, SBZ says most people in my generation are gamers / PC owners. Yeah, a lot of almost everybody I know, well, gamers / so you're right. A lot of my friends are mobile only. A lot.
Interesting.
I know, way more than I thought. You know, I'm like, hey man, I'm ACG. You don't care? I'm just joking. I would never say that, but they wouldn't care. They're mobile fans. Like they've got, you know, a couple premium games, but most of them are the games we would tease, you know, your Farmvilles or your
you know, it's
Simpsons or-
interesting because Discord is kind of like the window into social life for a lot of people, because a lot of their friends are online, right? And they use Discord. And Discord, yeah, you could just go mobile and just use that. But for a lot of people, I feel that's also a big reason to have a PC, so that, you know, you can have that. And now it's cool that it's becoming more and more available just through the console, because that removes the need for a PC. You know, if that was the only thing that kind of had you gotten the
PC one and dones, you know, are out now. The APUs are pretty
also
powerful.
Gives Nintendo a cheap out for their next
Nintendo
voice chat
cheap
system.
out, yeah. Switch 2 is just going to basically be a B-Link style, but stretched out in handheld form. I think that's the thing, especially when we look at the ability to jump in really easy. I do agree that I like the idea to multitask, but it is crazy how many people do not like a ton of multitasking. You know, and I don't mean a ton. I said a ton. I just made the conversation worthless. What I meant to say was multitasking at all. So I'll see a lot of my friends on the phone just doing one thing, and there is no Discord in gaming at all. There'll be Discord, then that goes down, gaming, Discord, and that's so alien to me just because of how I do things that it's quite surprising to see somebody do that, which, by the way, I would say they're probably better off by far for retention and stuff like that than I would be. But it's interesting to watch friends come over and see what they do and how they interact with their technology and how much it's become a proxy for a body part or a proxy. I have a friend who goes and gets food most of the time. Now, it's not because they want to go for a walk. It's because they've had a lot of bad experiences with deliveries, but they go and get food. And there's such a difference between them always going and getting food and other people who always order in. It's just like, I do a phone call, put it down, food comes. And they have this rigmarole. It's like, all right, we know we want something. First, we have to look to see what we want. Then we have to find out where it is. Then we have to get in the car. We have to drive to where it is. We have to get the food there. Then we come back. And I realize that's for everything, man. Like how quickly you can get a song, how quickly you can get, you know, if I have a barrier of entry for downloading a book I want from Kindle, how easily the search drive goes away. And I have to make notes and say, remember to go look for this, Jeremy. Because if I don't, it's a possibility my brain's like, can't get it right away, done. Right? It just bounces right off. Man, I don't know.
It's very interesting. The rigmarole kind of makes it
worth
more compelling in a way. It makes it more rewarding. Yeah.
It's also interesting just to see how different generations relate to technology in that way. Like the generation before us, the generation after us, and the generation after that, like all in different ways.
And how all of our parents somehow understand Facebook. I don't know what it is, but like I understand Facebook. What I mean is they're ingrained in that shit. My mom and dad are like Facebook, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I'm always like Facebook. I always forget it's even a thing anymore. I mean, I'll post the podcast to it and I'll answer some questions.
I don't use Facebook at all.
But it's so funny to see them using Facebook and I'm using like Telegram or, WhatsApp or some chat thing and to see the difference there. But I was surprised how quickly my parents grasped it. Very fast, which I thought they were going to be slow because my dad couldn't figure out a remote. If I bought a remote that had more than the buttons that were on the front of that TV, fuck, dude. I'm not lying. You could almost see him look at the remote and look at the TV, and if there was 2 more buttons on that thing, he was bound to press those to try to figure out what it did, and that would inevitably lead to it not working. He'd be like, Dad, up, down, that's it. Hit the big red button to turn it off. But with Facebook, my parents grasped it really quickly. Robert says, you guys see the new Gothic remake trailer and/or Titan Quest? I saw him hit Reddit. I can't say I'm interested in any remakes or remasters right now. Titan Quest 2 might be interesting maybe in the future. Did you guys do?
It just seems like a weird game to remake. Gothic, I guess.
Yeah, Gothic in particular. I liked Gothic, by the way, when it came out.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that there's anything wrong with the game. Right. It's just it wasn't exactly like a stellar classic,
nor an example of some mechanic you would want. Now,
in that,
you know what
sense,
I mean?
Yeah. It was okay.
I mean, we get. It's like, who knows? Once we get them, I just don't get too excited about remakes. In fact, the only thing that got me for Outcast was because of how they did it, which I can't spoil, but there were some things in Outcast's remake that I like the idea of. I would have still probably been interested in particular in Outcast because I'm such a fan of the game, but it would have been less interesting than what I had heard that they were doing and the idea of jumping into that. So that was very cool for that. What else do we got? It's been we covered Bethesda. We covered Bungie. We covered Avowed. We covered Ubisoft streaming service. We covered Discord's update. Starfield's getting an update. Did you guys see that? Bunch of rumors about Starfield's new expansion coming. I think it's September with the car. And let me ask you guys straight up. No negativity, no positivity, just straight up. Does it make sense to have a car in Starfield? Because I still don't understand. Most of the places I go in Starfield,
like a buggy,
but
like
with all the
Mm-hmm.
rocks and trees, and you're just gonna be bouncing off shit the entire time. It feels like. I mean, maybe it's because I go to a lot of force planes right now. I don't know. I see a lot of like trees.
Because
and shit.
I mean, for sure, it's going to be limited use on some planets, but on like the huge open desolate ones.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really problematic because things like the terrain and how it would interact with a vehicle are going to be really complex. So it's probably going to be really jank. It's going to be jank. Yeah, it's going to be jank.
Silver's like, no. It's going to be jank. Regardless. Anyway, continue, John.
No, but what I thought is a good way out of that would be to do a hover bike. Because it's a small vehicle that would fit, like you say, in between trees and stuff. And it's not interacting with the terrain, which is always a problem, right? Like, especially if third-person view.
I think the moon buggy also kind of makes sense for me in terms of Starfield's like aesthetic and sort of NASA feel that it's trying to go for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'll play it. I have no issue with them adding it. I just personally feel like the jankiness is going to be so through the roof that I just don't see I'll be calling it to myself very often. What were you going to say?
If you have a mobile that you can use, and then you can dock it into your spaceship, dude.
I mean, the spaceships themselves are already kind of janky.
I think that the big thing with the spaceship and the buggy, my assumption is inventory space. Because what I notice is that a lot of people who mod that game, mod inventory weight changes to it. Now, I don't, because to me, it sort of fits the game. It's like you can't carry around 700 pounds of ore. That doesn't make any sense. But most people I know who play the PC version and now the console, because the mods try to do a weight change in some way. So I could see the idea, depending on how it's done. It would also be cool if you had an automatic. This will never happen, because can you imagine the nav? It'll never happen. But it would be cool if you could put shit on the buggy and it was automatic, and you push a button and it would drive off. But it's never gonna. I mean, if it does happen,
cool,
talk
though.
about jank. Can you imagine
no.
the nav mesh on some of those planets? Because there is crap everywhere on some of the, because it is random. But that would be fun.
Can you imagine, like, in Cyberpunk, you can call your bike or your car, right? And it drives to you. But, like, Starfield, you just see the buggy completely fucked up trying to, like, navigate.
Yeah, because even the mod that you call your ship to you, which is, by the way, an incredibly well-done mod, even it has a lot of issues with the space that's allowed for the ship.
I need to install that.
It's the best mod.
Because,
it's honestly, if there's any mod, zero, other than a patch or whatever, the only mod I will play from now on is the mod with Call Your Starship, because it still takes time. It still cannot land in some places, so you still have to find flat ground, but it allows for you to explore and feel a little bit more like a. So, dude, I got to tell you, you tell the ship to take off to be able to take it to land. So you can't just say, come to me. You have to first initialize it and say, take off and I'll call you later. I got to tell you guys, seeing your ship take off when it's not a bug and somebody's throwing your ship is pretty cool. So, like, you see your ship take off and you're like, my guys are up there circling up there somewhere, and then you're doing your shit, and then you call it and it'll say there's not enough room. And you have to look around and go, okay, I need about, 100 yards or something. You sort of have to find a place, try to call again. It'll be like, okay, we can land. And seeing that thing come down, it's pretty sweet. It's a good mod.
It is
a fantastic. Whoever made that, I'm sorry I don't remember your name, but I remember your mod, and I always will. You did a fantastic
That's awesome.
job.
I need to look into that, because also it makes sense. You have your tombs in the ship. They can fly the ship. You know what I mean? Why do I have to walk to my ship?
Yeah, I mean, Sarah's busy enough telling me what I do wrong.
Yes,
she can fly the ship occasionally. Like, it's like, listen, I do a lot of shit wrong. You ain't doing shit at all. So meet me halfway.
Stop judging me for 2 seconds.
Yeah,
and drive
at least I'm
shit.
doing shit. Krypton says, do you think unionizing game companies' employees will hinder creativity? Do you think it will offer the flexibility for more creativity? Unions will not affect creativity. I don't think unions would affect creativity in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, I don't see that being an issue. But I will tell you, unions are not the magic weird stuff I've seen on Twitter where that means no one will be laid off. And I'm like, look at the Detroit factories. Look at all the factories that were unionized. It does help in many ways, but it does not
They can be
stop.
a good resource, right?
Absolutely.
For leverage against, like, abuse or, like, stuff that's happening.
And they offer protections.
But they also have their issues.
What'd you say?
They offer potential protections.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome. I don't see it affecting. I mean, I don't know. Somebody who knows game development may say that it can, but I've never really heard anybody say that would affect creativity.
No, I mean, plenty of creative industries are unionized. Screen Actors Guild. Musicians are unionized in some places.
Okay, maybe you just proved why we don't like it. No, I'm just joking.
Didn't they extend the voice actors strike to video games as well? I think I read that for, like, new projects, voice actors are not, like, coming in to do stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like if they had a deal already, depending on the deal, some of them are still allowed, but for the most part, which does suck. Obviously, because now some of these games that maybe weren't announced,
might have production issues.
Might have some production issues that are gonna see. This is the thing that happened, Johnny. Too. We talk about this. So, I love 2023. I think it was a great year. I actually like 22, and I've loved 24. But I do feel that because of people being ill, everybody being home, different companies trying to figure out how to work, all that stuff. We also get all these games that appear in these random patches, and sometimes it doesn't make as much, maybe not sense, but in the past, I feel like most of the time I could make sense of the release pattern. And some of these games feel like they're just released to fulfill the financial quarter. Like, it's like, we got to get it out by this because that was our contract, and it's got to get out early or what have you. And by the way, that's just guessing. I'm just saying, if you look at them, everything that people think that like everything is so easy to change and all that stuff, and it's not. And if there's no voices in your game, that game's going to get delayed. If it was, it's expected to have voices. So I mean, imagine how much money you'd lose if you had an RPG and you had it in your planning to do voice recording, and it's delayed for 1.5 years because you can't use those particular
brutal.
Yeah, it sucks. And I don't know enough about the rules to know who can work on those that aren't like who.
I mean, I would imagine you could probably put in like
temporary
placeholders temporarily until you then get those guys in.
But if it's 2 years, or a year or whatever, then what do? You use the temporary guys, I assume. And I don't know the rules about what you get away with if you use the temporary. Like if you use the
scabs, right?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a term. Like that's by the way, the term I was always thinking, but you never know what term has suddenly become magically not acceptable to say anymore. Just like, and that one sounds gross. It just sounds disgusting. But that is always what it's been called.
Purposely so, I believe.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. Onomatopoeia kind of thing. I think that's it for us. I do want to say thanks to everybody who got a chance to jump in. We will try to figure out more on this channel. This will be the channel, I think, for the most part, where we'll be doing the streams from now on. I'll try to do a video on YouTube that pushes everybody here. We're just expecting low viewership for a while, as well as, some people who probably were watching reviews saw we were live jumping in. So any help you can offer by telling people about it or tweeting people about it, I appreciate it. Johnny, what are you streaming?
Like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like and subscribe always. What are you streaming tomorrow?
Actually don't know if I might jump into some Cyberpunk. Otherwise, I'll continue to do SnowRunner. It's been fun because a few of the viewers, including Silver, sometimes jump in. We truck together.
That's awesome.
We help each other out. If someone tips, we go and rescue them. It's great. We listen to some good music, and it's usually always a good time.
I want to point out, with actual evidence, I've now tried to drop into 3 of your streams, and each time Twitch gives me that you need 2-factor authentication, so we need to call your number and give you a code, and it's an old phone that I don't have anymore. And so I think it was last week and the week before, we were in voice chat, and it popped up that you were there. I was like, okay, man, I'm going to sneak into Johnny's Twitch, and then I'm also going to sneak into the game because I downloaded it when you and I talked. So I was like, okay, this is all a big plan. And I get ready, and Lucitan, who's in there, Lucitan's always on Twitch. That guy lives on Twitch. So he's like, I'm signed in, I'm watching. I'm like, okay. And I hit that sign in. The moment that thing came up, I was like, oh, God damn it.
2FA, let's go.
I got to find that phone. I say I don't have it. It's in here somewhere, but I don't know where it is. Anyway, that's it for us. Thank you very much, everybody. You will see coverage of more games next week.
I have one thing, Carrick.
We're not done. Please hold, everybody. Go.
Okay, so this is a bit of a weird, question. Okay, people are going to look at me the wrong way, but a little context. I grew up with, Discovery Channel, right? And History Channel.
Back when it was actually, a documentary network.
Yes.
And not a reality show.
The shark documentaries, all the the guy, the alien guy with the crazy hair, right? So a lot of alien documentaries, a lot of pyramid mystery documentaries. And I grew up watching these documentaries all about how the pyramids are too perfect to have been created by people, right? Just look at the rocks, Carrick, and they're perfectly crafted. No contraption could have placed those. And I always just thought it's like moving some big rocks. Where do you guys stand on with the pyramids? Is it is it suspect or weird, or Do you guys
It was
think
awesome.
basically we can think of like simple contraptions, to move and place stuff?
I don't think simple contraptions. I mean, extraordinarily advanced for the time, and even like today, probably not advanced in terms of like electronics or the stuff, but like in terms of engineering, for sure. And I think they're absolutely
Pulleys and stuff. All
the
this
pyramids
type of
themselves are absolutely awe-inspiring, much like other ancient structures that still exist today. I mean, Angkor Wat in Cambodia.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Way different than that Angkor Wat
incredible.
Is well
I mean, the amount of
pyramids
detail carved into that temple is just awe-inspiring. I think absolutely. I mean, I think I don't remember the details about how they carved the stones, but I think that has been sort of settled in scholarly circles. But I definitely think it's a human endeavor. Yeah.
So just post.
So aliens didn't come down to build the pyramids.
So the thing about the pyramids,
I highly doubt it.
The thing about the pyramids is anything over a certain amount of time we don't know, and it's all looking and guessing because you see this thing.
Right.
I don't see anything about those that isn't wondrous and amazing. And by the way, even amazing for our time, in the same way that it's amazing we build a skyscraper in our time. That is still amazing.
Like some of those
it's
things.
That we see multiple ones built that becomes less amazing, and we have machines to magnify whatever one person can do. But, dude, yeah, of course, people. Like, now, admittedly, the places that Silver were talking about, and some of those, and some of the chisel, no chisel marks, that's that. But some of the etchings and stuff, sometimes you're looking at it going, how in the hell? Like, what the fuck is going on? Because, by the way, when you see the pyramid, sand, all that kind of stuff, right? Sort of, destroyed by erosion. This one's still destroyed by erosion. But when you see some of the stone faces, you're all, I don't understand. That looks like a marble kitchen face, like with insanely minute etchings. Do I believe that means anything other than that they had figured out and had a lot of time on their fucking hands? And a lot of belief.
That's another one.
Yeah. The other thing is also one of the things, if you study civil engineering in particular and civil projects, it was not crazy for a church to take many decades to be built. It was not crazy to see a civil engineering project be created and have the leader say, I want to start it now so that in 30 years it's getting done, and it's sort of my lineage.
That's basically the entire plot of like Ken Follett's Pillars of the Earth. Yeah.
It is actually.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And also that kept, by the way, doing those projects, kept the ruler in charge a lot of times, which you could possibly point to back then. Maybe that
because
worked.
Of course you were ordained by God as the ruler, so you needed the church.
And people were busy working and possibly weren't revolting. But the idea that dude, it was amazing. You let the
church collect tithe as ruler.
The pyramids are awesome, but here's one big thing about the pyramid that always stuns me that people. I say people. Many people have brought this up, but that isn't brought up more often in the weird circles. Is that for all that building, they got a little tiny room in the center. And
they got a tiny room.
We were talking about that earlier, where somebody said that's just where the one kernel of rice that somebody really cherished was kept, because it's like you look at all this stuff and you're all, no, it was built for exactly what people seem to have figured out it was built for. And it's amazing that it's lasted that long. It's amazing anything lasts very long, especially with earthquakes and stuff. Like it's crazy.
I mean, you go to like I've been to Pompeii twice now, in southern Italy, which is, for those who don't know, an ancient Roman city that was buried in ash and basically preserved enormously well. And it is kind of awe-inspiring to walk down those cobbled streets and stuff.
And know that they're the same ones.
Yeah, and see the graffiti on the walls and stuff from like over 2,000 years ago. And the atrium, the way where the atrium was located, how they navigated through their rooms, how they had street food served and stuff. Yeah, it's extremely interesting stuff.
Yeah, their thought processes were in decades. Ours are in basically little digits on a phone.
Yeah, and also like the term shit runs downhill being quite literal, because you had gutters going downhill through
yeah.
the street for
no, there's a
the
couple
shit roll downhill. Yeah.
There's a couple places in the world that
downhill.
I'm really stunned at their building and their, but I've never. I mean, when I was a kid, I thought it was awesome. The idea that like an alien was using a golden rod to pick up these, you know, and then you look at it later and you're like, oh, I get it, but that's fine. That's the same thing as Santa Claus. Yes, I just told you guys Santa Claus isn't real. Sorry, what were we gonna say?
Exactly. No, that's the thing. You know, as a kid, you're watching these documentaries and your mind is wild, right, with imagination and stuff. So of course it's compelling to think of aliens coming down, but also the idea of that's what I would do in a way. If I was an alien going into a planet, I would build something cool. I mean, that's what I do in Starfield. You know, I find a planet I like, I build some shit there. You know, like for some reason that idea just seemed natural. Like, yeah, of course.
You're an entirely different level than me, because I build some shit there, but it's not going to last very long. It's a single like room.
The one block.
And my guy is outside, no bed. So what you're building, what I'm building, probably different. But yeah, no, I get you, man. I love this kind of stuff. But for the most part, those kind of things, it's great to be able to. It's sort of a mind exercise now. Which I like, because I'll still watch. You know, what if it was aliens? I'll still watch those. I think I own a couple DVDs of them, but I watch them as a mind experiment and an idea of fantasy and an idea of I also love it when a musician is surprised at an old classical song and they're like, this is insanely well done. Like this took a master to figure this out, or maybe not a master, but this is a great moment in time. That happens with everybody. And we have a tendency to deball humans, man. I don't know what it is. We're like, nah. Couldn't have built it. Come on, dude. What? Like, I don't know why, but it actually bothers me sometimes when we're all the only way to do
we've done some pretty cool shit.
The only way to do it would be aliens. I'm all rocks, cutting them, carrying them. Pretty much been doing that for a long time.
Like Silver said, not saying it's simple, but we can figure it out.
Yeah, If you got,
we'll throw together some pulleys.
If you have people, money, or a vast belief like a religion or a cult or all that kind of stuff, and you have that belief, that ability, and a civil project. I mean, we've seen multiple ones go up, but I would love to go there, but I've heard so many horror stories about going to the pyramids. I really want to. It's one of the few places I've wanted to go, but every person who's ever gone is like, it's just a ridiculous tourist trap piece of shit. Like, you should not go.
Yeah.
And they're not people who debunk travel. They're not people who are like, you just watch a YouTube. Oh, yeah. They're not saying that. They're just like, it's the experience is lackluster.
Like generally, like high tourist areas have become even more congested in the last few years.
Do you see those people deface Stonehenge?
I did. The activist group in the UK.
Do you know what I was hoping, Johnny? Dude, imagine the heartfelt warmth you would feel if they defaced one of those stones and it fell on them. I was thinking about that a couple days ago when I saw the video pop up, and I was all, you know what would have been amazing?
Karma
it would have been the greatest moment ever on TV to me. If they were like, boom, and you're all, dude, bitch. You just got schooled.
Those guys have been really controversial. I think they're called Stop Oil something.
Oh, they're one of those.
Group in the UK. They've been very controversial. They've done stuff like stopping traffic and causing tons of people to like not be able to go places, for example. And they've done a bunch of stuff like that, like defacing and stuff. And admittedly, for a good cause, you know, they're trying to create some impact. But yeah, I don't know how I feel kind of like morally about that type of activism. You know, it kind of.
Well, I'll tell you how I feel about destroying something that's been up. We've had it here in America where people will go into some rock formation and kick a rock over. Yeah, there's not a small amount of hatred for those guys.
Big one is all the people who carve their initials into buildings and stuff. Yeah.
Just hoping that building tips over on them. That'll be it for us. Thank you very much. Thanks to Johnny for the cool question. We hope to see you guys next week. Hit subscribe, like it. You can check out iTunes and Spotify. We'll probably be up in an hour on there. I appreciate everybody jumping in. If you get a chance, I put the links in there for Patreon. That would help the channel if you don't want to. Regardless of that, I appreciate that you got this far to listen to me say that and to tell me no. Peace out, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye.